Hey listeners, how are you all? Thank you so much for being our awesome members. There's a lot to come more. Sit tight, be comfy, put your headphones. Now let's begin. Prologue. The beginning of the legend. 6 years ago, a 9-tailed demon fox attacked Konoha. With one swipe of one of its 9 tails, it could crush mountains and cause tsunamis. We have to hold it off till the 4th Hokage arrives, shouted one of the ninjas as he threw kunai at the fox only to have them bounce off its coat. Then the 4th Hokage arrived and by sacrificing his own Fei he sealed the fox into a child who just had its umbilical cord removed. This is his story. Present-day Konoha 6 years later. We appear over the peaceful village of Konoha, after the incident, as it is called now, the 3rd Hokage. Sarutobi declared that no person shall speak of the incident of the fox and of it being sealed into Naruto. Naruto was running towards the playground. He was in a good mood today. The 3rd had allowed him to have his own fully furnished room in the apartment just a few blocks from the Hokage Tower. Also he gave him an allowance to spend every month. As Naruto arrived at the playground, he noticed children playing. He tried to play with them, but their parents came and took them away. Even from that distance he could make out the words, "I don't want you playing with that boy ever," escape their lips. He didn't really care though, he had always been treated like that. People would always stare at him with nothing but hatred in their eyes. Some even told him to just roll over and die. But he began to become accustomed to such treatment, so he started to play. A few hours later, 2 ninja with a fan-like pattern on their clothes appeared in front of the child at play. One had long black hair, with bags under his eyes, the other wore a hanbu mask. "So this is the brat everyone seems to despise," says the first ninja. "Yeah, Itachi, what should we do with him?" replied the other masked ninja. "We need to get him to the forest so we can get rid of him without anyone noticing. Also," he said as he turned towards the street. "Also what, Itachi?" "Nothing, let's get the kid and run." As Itachi said this, he lunged towards Naruto, stabbing him in his legs so he couldn't run, and a few more were thrown into his shoulders so he couldn't fight back. Naruto tried to scream but Itachi gagged him before he even had the chance. Then picking him up like a piece of trash, threw him over his shoulder to his partner. Then in the blink of an eye, they disappeared. At the corner was young Hinata Hyuga, who had seen what had transpired. After she shook herself out of her shocked state, she began to run to tell the Hokage of what had happened. At the Hokage Tower, Sarutobi was sitting in his office trying to settle upon some deal with the Sand Ninja when, "Lord Hokage, news has reached us that the Naruto has been kidnapped by Itachi Uchiha." One of his assistants shouted as he ran through the doors. "What? Send a Junin team as soon as possible," ordered Sarutobi as the ninja quickly complied. "I just hope Junin will be enough," he thought. Forest area outside of Konoha. "This seems like the place to do the deed," Itachi said as they finally came to a halt. "Itachi, I don't know about this. What if we get caught? What if," was all the masked ninja could get out before he sliced his head clean off. Naruto watched in pure terror, realizing he would most likely be next. He tried to move but the wounds on his joints hurt so much he couldn't move. All he could do was watch. Itachi pulled out some ninja stars and knives and hurled them in Naruto's direction. "So this is how my life ends," thought Naruto as he closed his eyes and waited for death. But just then Naruto heard clanging sounds. He opened his eyes to see what had happened. What he saw in front of him shocked him beyond belief. He saw a man with very long white hair, standing in front of him. He had deflecting the projectiles just by using one kunai. "Damn, Jiraiya, I wasn't planning on a Sannin showing up," he said as he disappeared into a puff of smoke. "Hey kid, you okay?" he asked, not even looking at Naruto. "I'm fine and my name's not Kid, it's Naruto Uzumaki," he said in a bit of a ill-tempered manner. "Oh, so this is the fox child," Jiraiya thought to himself. "Anyway, you're coming with me." "What? But why can't I go home?" Naruto said with a bit of a shock. "Because as of now if I were to return you, you would most likely be killed by that guy, and besides your wound is open," Jiraiya tried to explain to Naruto, though he clearly wasn't listening. "Sigh, and if you come with me, I'll teach you some ninja technique to that next time you won't be nearly as caught off guard." "Really?" Naruto said almost immediately. All Jiraiya did was smile and say jokingly, "Believe it." So he picked up Naruto and began to carry him off into the forest. Hokage Tower. Sarutobi was pacing around the room impatiently, just waiting for news on Naruto. Then one of the Anbu members came in. "We were only able to track Itachi to a remote area in the forest, but after that there was nothing. We found one of his clan members with his head cut off there, and later according to Sasuke Uchiha, he killed the rest of the clan," he reported. "But what about Naruto?" Sarutobi said as he was tired of the news being put off. The Anbu member paused then said, "We weren't able to find a body but we were able to find blood there. We assume that Itachi killed Naruto and dumped his body off somewhere else." Sarutobi stood there in shock, but in his years of being a ninja he saw many things like this, so he had become accustomed to such things. Soon he turned around and dismissed the Anbu member. He then looked up upon the wall at 4 pictures. The first picture showed a man with black hair, second a man with seemingly white hair, the third showed Sarutobi himself. And the fourth picture showed a man with blonde hair and blue eyes. "I'm sorry my friend, sorry for not only what this village has done to your only son, but also that I couldn't protect him," he sighed. Then turning back to his desk to do more work. End of prologue. Return to Konoha. Konoha, 4 years later. We now hover over the peaceful village of Konoha, its streets filled with people, shops, and even academy students. Konoha is setting up for a festival this October 10th. There are 2 reasons for this festival, one more secret than the other. The first more well-known reason is to celebrate the day 10 years ago, when the 4th Hokage defeated the 9-tailed demon fox. The other more secretive reason was to celebrate the death of the so-called demon spawn of Konoha, Naruto Uzumaki, 4 years ago. At the edge of Konoha's forest near the gate we see 2 figures appear. The first figure is a familiar perverted Sannin, named Jiraiya. The other one is much shorter than Jiraiya. He was a 10-year-old boy with blonde hair reaching halfway down his neck, with the brightest blue eyes you could imagine, and 3 whisker-like birthmarks across his cheeks. It was Naruto. He had been training with the Sannin for the past 4 years with noticeable results. Though he was young, it seemed that you could see a look of seriousness in his eyes. Of course it didn't last long, for the boys started bouncing up and down with glee as they got closer to the gates. And why shouldn't? The place he had called his home was so near now, after 4 years. As they got near the gate Jiraiya stopped where he turned to Naruto. "Okay Naruto, now that we are here, it's time I set some rules before I left." Naruto could only nod, for he knew that if he protested Jiraiya would just give him a lump on his head. "First off, when you enter you must go to see the Hokage, enroll in the Ninja Academy, and find a place to stay. He will probably give you an allowance to live off of like before." Naruto didn't find anything wrong with this particular rule. Next, while you are at the academy, you are not to use any of the higher level ninjutsus. You may flaunt your taijutsu all you want, and even use minor genjutsu. But you may not use any ninjutsu above an academy level. If you do, serious consequences may come for both of us. They will question where you learned them, and they may interrogate you, seriously. As to find out where you learned them, which will most likely lead to trouble. Also, try to hold back on using your original ninjutsus as well. Naruto was a bit more disgruntled with this rule. But Jiraiya had made a good point. Knowing the villagers, they would probably accuse him of getting the techniques from the fox. Yes, he has become aware of the fox, more information on that later. And the third and final rule, those make out paradise books I gave you, be sure not to let anyone see them. Naruto definitely understood that reason, without a shadow of a doubt. Is that clear Naruto? Jiraiya asked. Yeah, I got ya Arrow Sennin. Thwack, I told you to stop calling me that. Damn kids, no respect for their elders. Well, it's your fault, you're the one who said you were a super pervert. And I told you to ignore that. Psych, this is getting us nowhere. Naruto, I'll see y'all later. Wait, when will I see you again? Naruto didn't actually care, he just wanted to know so that he could get ready for it. I'll check up on ya every now and again. See y'all later, kid. Oh, one last thing, do not use the red chakra under any circumstance that does not have to do with you or someone close to you dying, unless I give you permission, got it? Naruto just nodded, and with that Jiraiya vanished. He's probably going information gathering. And with that Naruto headed towards the gate. Now Naruto wasn't wearing his normal attire at the time, he was wearing more or less a black cloak with a hood on it, with orange stripes around his torso. He wore this on Lee because it was the only piece of decent clothing he could buy. When he walked up to the guards, he immediately noticed the smell of sake. They were both drunk out of their minds. "Hey, I have some business here with the Hokage," Naruto said as calmly as possible. "Beat it, shrimp, hiccup, we don't have to let you in today," the guard said, immediately stumbling over his 2 feet. Now Naruto was trying not to bust this guy's head open for calling him shrimp. He remained calm and asked, "Why is today so special?" "Today is the day that the 4th killed the fox." Vomits. "Oh yeah, I almost forgot my own birthday." His thoughts were disrupted by the guard again. "Also some kid died today too. His name was, damn, I think I forgot. Oh yeah, his name was Naruto." After the guard said this, he looked up for the first time and saw Naruto's face. To say he was shocked was an understatement. The guy looked like he was going to wet himself on the spot. "What are you talking about? I'm alive, right here, and I want to talk to the Hokage," Naruto said, sounding a bit flustered. The guard had a very quick attitude change and ordered for the gate to be opened immediately. As Naruto walked through village, he noticed the looks he was getting. Some people recognized him immediately and started glaring at him. Some had their jaw on the closest solid object. Some women even fainted at the sight of him. "Man, you would think that they just saw a ghost. I mean, I knew I was going to get some hateful looks, but this is just way more than I expected." But to the people of Konoha, that is exactly what they thought they were seeing. They thought he was dead. They thought Itachi murdered him. They thought they would never have to see him again. They were wrong. He made his way to the Hokage Tower. He didn't really have to struggle to get in. The guards were too afraid to confront him. Hokage Tower. Sarutobi sat at his desk doing paperwork about the festival tonight. He never did attend much of the festival. Only the parts he had to attend due to him being Hokage. He sighed a heavy sigh as he looked towards the window, thinking of the child that never had the chance to see his 10th birthday. As he gazed, he heard an argument just outside the door. It involved one of his bodyguards not allowing someone into his office. At first he didn't think much of it, then he heard a fight, then one of his guards looked in with a bloody nose, fat lip, and a black eye. "Lord Hokage, there is someone here to see you." Not turning from the window, he signed for him to send the visitor in. As he heard the door shut, he began to question the nature of the guest's visit. Not even looking from the window, he said, "If you don't mind, could we keep this meeting short? I have a lot on my mind to ponder, and your visit isn't helping me think," he said rather coldly. Then an expression of shock replaced the one of frustration when he heard the voice. "Is that how you treat someone who has been gone for 4 years, old man?" Sarutobi was utterly shocked. He turned around to see the blonde child standing at his desk. His grin was as wide as it could get. At first Sarutobi thought it was just his old age getting to him. He rushed to the figure. And looking it right in the eye, what he saw brought a tear to his eye. It was Naruto, the child he thought was lost 4 years ago. "Naruto!" Sarutobi exclaimed as he bear hugged the child. "I can't believe it's you. Look how much you've grown, and your hair. Where have you been? Were you okay? We all thought that Itachi had killed you." "That explains the looks they gave me. They literally thought that I was a ghost." "Yeah, I've been alright. A man saved me at the last minute and took me in for 4 years, teaching me a bunch of ninja techniques, and BEF. Or you ask, it was one of your students, Jiraiya." Sarutobi was a bit shocked at first, but he got over it when he realized why Jiraiya would do that. "So you're trying to raise another Hokage, Jiraiya." After all the greeting have been done, and hugs were out of the way, Sarutobi quickly agreed to letting Naruto in the academy. He learned that Naruto learned and created a few jutsus that he wasn't allowed to use until he graduated. And that he knew about the fox sealed in him, and that he know how use its power. Sarutobi also thought that the rules that he set up for Naruto were good ones. Though he slightly disagreed with giving Naruto the Makeout Paradise books, but then again, Naruto probably would have gotten them off Sarutobi anyway, so he wasn't one to judge. As for the matter of housing, Naruto was given his old apartment room back, and for his first allowance was given quite a bit of money to get off the ground. With that, Naruto left to go shopping for clothing and furniture and such. But first he would visit his apartment. After he left, Sarutobi was in a much better mood than before. The streets of Konoha. Naruto at first wondered why Sarutobi would give him such a large amount of money. Then when he got to his apartment he found out why. It was practically bare. The only things that were there was the toilet, shower, bath, refrigerator, counter space and cabinets, and a stove. He knew he was going to need every last bit of money he could get in order to furnish his house. He was also glad that Jiraiya taught him the proper costs of certain items, or Naruto would have most certainly been ripped off like before. So he bought all the things he needed, a bed, a table, chairs, food, and he got his new clothes. They are the ones he wears in the manga anime. With all that taken care of, he decided to go get something to eat. Also he would get some groceries for his house. He decided to not spend too much money on dinner since he still had to buy groceries, so he stopped at Ichiraku. When he got there, the owner at first was a little shocked when he saw Naruto, but eventually, he came over his shock and asked Naruto what he wanted. Naruto ended up getting about 14 bowls of ramen. When he was done, he paid the owner, and what he heard the owner say was something he had never heard from any other place before: "Thank you, and have a nice day." It didn't even seem forced. It seemed as though he meant what he said. This made Naruto a little more cheerful as he went to get groceries and head home. Naruto's room. As Naruto entered his room, he found, to his surprise, that everything was moved into place. At first he thought the people Wop brought it here did it, but then he found a scroll on the floor. He picked it up and the scroll read: "Dear Naruto, congratulations on your successful move back into Konoha. I was coming here to check on ya, but when I saw no one here, I just left the scroll here for you. Anyway, the scroll I left on the counter there is filled with training tips for you to do on your own time. I don't want you getting soft at the academy. So really that's all I have to say. I'll see ya about every few months to check on your progress, so don't slack off. Sincerely, Jiraiya. P.S. I saw your furniture here, so I decided to move it into place for you. You're welcome." Naruto rolled the scroll back up and looked at the new scroll on his kitchen counter. He put both scrolls under his new bed. As he was getting ready for bed, Naruto felt in an all-around better mood. Not only was going to the academy in a few days to become a ninja, but also, maybe this time, he would make some new friends, maybe. The academy, beginning of year 1. Naruto's apartment. A few days later, Naruto woke to the sound of a beeping alarm clock at 6:30 a.m. He didn't feel tired like most people do when they awaken in the morning. He had gotten comfortable waking up at 5 o'clock sharp with Jiraiya, so he was very happy with the extra hour and a half he had gotten to sleep in. He felt very relieved with having toilet paper around. For 4 years on various occasions he would have to use leaves, and neither he nor Jiraiya were very good at telling the difference between oak and poison ivy leaves. After he was done washing his face, he got the first real good look at himself in a long time. He noticed his hair, after a good wash, was a much brighter shade of blonde. He had lost much of his baby fat on body, though he was only 10, but his muscles were not all that visible due to his still developing body. As he was finishing adoring himself, he went to the kitchen to start making a meal. He had bought quite a few groceries, so he didn't have to have ramen this morning. Instead he had 2 eggs, 2 sausage links, and some sweet red bean soup. As he finished off his breakfast he took a look at his apartment. It wasn't good, but it wasn't bad. It was average at this point. The room was a greenish-gray color. The floor was mostly shag except for the tiles in the bathroom and kitchen. It was actually bigger than he expected. There was a space for everything he had. He had in his closet he kept his clothes, not much else though, and there was still a lot of space. He kept valuables under his bed, as well as scrolls containing some of his journal entries, jutsus, both original and ones Jiraiya suggested him learning. His bookshelf so far had Make Out Paradise 1 and 2. History of many shinobi villages, books on bloodline traits, and some cooking manuals. Nobody can live of ramen alone. He took a look at his clock and noticed he had lost track of time and had to be at the academy in 15 minutes. Now ordinarily this would not be a problem, but Jiraiya had told Naruto to not make himself stand out too much, so he couldn't just jump from rooftop to rooftop. Damn. Times like these I wish I could pay more attention to time. Naruto cursing his luck as he rushed down the streets of Konoha, not even noticing any of the people his way. Ninja Academy. It was a busy first day at the Ninja Academy. Many students were quickly running through the halls to find their rooms and teachers were doing their best in vain to calm them down and direct them. In one particular room, Iruka Yumino was looking over his class. He was a very tan man with brown hair in a ponytail style. He also had very tan skin with a scar cut across his face, starting on his right cheek over his nose and ending on his left cheek. He also wore a chunin jacket. Iruka was reading his clipboard to see the students he would have for the next 2 years in T. His I'm making it required to have at least 2 years in the academy. Let me see here. Shikamaru Nara, Hinata Hyuga, Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, Shino Aburame, Choji Akamichi, Hiba Inuzuka, and Ino Yamanaka. Those will be some pretty good ones. Let's see the rest. Wait a minute. Is this some kinda joke? Naruto Uzumaki. Okay, who is the one that put the name Naruto Uzumaki on the clipboard? Confess now and I won't make a big deal out it. Iruka said calmly while looking at his students. When no one had confessed, Iruka began to become a little annoyed. Okay, I was willing to be soft on the person who did this. If you don't speak up now you will be punished. This time he was a bit more serious. All of a sudden a certain blonde busted into the room, making quite a scene as he and the door collapsed onto the floor. The entire class looked at this strange kid with slight sweat drops forming on their heads. Iruka looked at the child with a bit more shock in his eyes. No way. Is this really the demon kid? His thoughts were interrupted as Naruto picked himself up and started dusting himself off. Sorry for being late. I saw an old lady crossing the street so I offered to carry her home. Oh, and the mess, I'll pick it up later. Naruto said with a slight grin, thinking that his excuse was flawless. He looked up at his classmates, the ones that didn't have their jaws on their desks. Were laughing at his excuse. He didn't know any of the kids, but by looking at them he could tell which family they were in. The boy with the paper fan symbol on his back he immediately recognized as an Uchiha. He already had a bad feeling about this guy, which was only strengthened when he called him an idiot. The girl close to the back of the classroom with the eyes without pupils he knew as a Hyuga. He also noticed that she had a look of complete shock painted on her face. Wonder what her problem is. Oh wait, stupid question. He looked over the rest of the classroom too. Say if he could recognize any other clans. When he couldn't, he turned to his teacher. Hey, anyway, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Can you point me to my seat? Iruka got over his stupor and pointed Naruto to a seats in the middle row in front of Hinata. As Naruto made his way to the seat, Iruka and had the same question on his mind. I don't get it, he was taken by Itachi, he should have died, right? As Naruto sat down, Hinata had a similar thought to Iruka. He is the same boy who were taken by those two people. I wonder how he survived. Flashback, 4 years ago. Hinata Hyuga was heading to the PLA ground after a very long day of training with her father. After her mother's death he had become colder than before, always pushing her harder than she could handle, always yelling at her whenever she would do something wrong. She was heading to the playground, just so that she could get away from that, if not for a few hours. As she was about to go around the corner she quickly noticed two people talking to a blonde boy. She ducked behind the corner in order to avoid being seen. She did so just in time, as one of them turned toward her direction. She thanked God that he had not seen her, but then became quickly worried as they began to attack the poor boy. After they finished she began to run towards the Hokage Tower to tell the third of what had just happened. Flashback over. After a few moments, Iruka had started the class for today. He had started on a lesson on chakra, what it was, how it was used, and ways to use it. Naruto of course know all of this, quickly succumbed to boredom and fell asleep. Iruka after a few minutes noticed the sleeping form of his new student. So much this one, already asleep after 1/2 hour, maybe I should toy with him a bit. He said as a evil grin appeared on his face. Hey you, sleeping back there. Iruka's sudden outburst awakened Naruto from his nap, as well as a certain other lazy bum named Shikamaru. If you have enough time to sleep. That must mean that you already know a lot about chakra, so why don't you go ahead and explain for us? This got a few snickers from the classroom, as they saw the slightly groggy blonde sit up in his seat and yawn. Today Naru, chakra is the life force of all living things on this planet. It is often found to be a blue color in most living things except for demons, which give off a red chakra. The abdomen is where a person's chakra is released from through the entire body. Ninjas can use a balance of spiritual and physical chakra in order to perform ninjutsus, taijutsus, and genjutsus by using special hand signs. A person's chakra, pool, as some call it, can be increased through mental, physical, and spiritual training. Chakra depletion is the state in which a person's chakra has been emptied out close to or completely. After his moment of glory, he quickly went back to sleep on his desk. To say everyone was stunned is an understatement. Many couldn't believe what just happened. Some kid had just given a full explanation of chakra, only after being in the academy for less than a day. Iruka was the most shocked as he realized that his intentions were to make the blonde look like a fool, not a genius. Shikamaru just stared for a moment, then fell asleep again. Choji just ate. Ino and Sakura were saying something about how Sasuke could have easily answered that question. Anata just gave a little giggle at what just happened. Kiba was scratching his head, not understanding what just happened. Sasuke was pretty much the same state Iruka was in but didn't visible show it, and Shino just sat there. After an hour and a half the bell rang for recess and everyone was out of the classroom and into the schoolyard. Naruto took a spot under a tree and began to think of what just happened. Maybe I showed off a little too much there, but it was a real kick to see the look on that teacher's face. Naruto's attention was turned to a group of girls chasing Sasuke across the yard trying to get his attention. Sasuke was basically wearing a dark blue short-sleeved shirt and pair of shorts. On the back of the shirt he had the Uchiha crest on the back. Fangirls, never had to deal with them before. This may be a bit of a nuisance. He looked to his left and noticed the Shikamaru kid under a tree a few feet from him with Choji not far behind. The Nara black hair in the shape of a pineapple. A gray short-sleeved jacket with a shirt under it, and blackish pants along with them. The Akamichi had brown hair and it was parted down the middle. He was pretty, with spiral marks on the side of his face. He wore a green short-sleeved jacket with an undershirt with the symbol for food on it. He wore shorts with a similar color as the Nara kid. Turning his attention back to the fangirls, he saw two that really stood out. One had pink hair with a ribbon in it with a forehead that you could eat your lunch on. She wore a red dress thing that went down to her knees except for the cuts up the side that revealed a pair of black shorts. The other had blonde hair and wore a. She must really want to get that guy's attention if she wears that around. He thought that every girl was a part of this club. He noticed one right beside the academy doors. She had short purple hair and lavender eyes without pupils in them. Strangely, she wore a coat in this season. She also had black pants. She quickly noticed him looking at her and blushed a bit. That's the Hyuga. Well, at least not everyone here is a fangirl. Naruto noticed a fly flying around his head and tried to swat it away from him. It then flew over to Shino, who let it land on its finger and seemingly started talking to it. He wore a high-collar white shirt, as well as a pair of black pants, and black sunglasses. His hairstyle was spiky like Naruto's, but only his stood all the way up. Is he talking to a bug? Kinda weird, but when y'all look at most of the other people in this courtyard, myself included, not too many of us can say we are any more normal than he is. And what with all the people wearing black pants? He was caught off guard when he felt something biting his arm. He saw a white dog with a slight brown color, probably from NTO being washed. He was called back by Kiba. He wore a gray hooded shirt with brown fur around the hood. He also had red upside-down triangles on his cheeks. He was wearing pants with a similar color to the shirt, only the fur was around where the pants ended. If I wasn't at the academy, I beat the both of them within an inch of their life. After a few minutes the bell rang and he found himself back in the classroom with the rest of his classmates, though it wasn't long before Iruka's lesson bored him to sleep again. After the bell rang again and it was the end of class for today. Naruto decided that he would just go home after today, still very bored from his lessons, and just itching to read some Makeout Paradise. Sure, some would call it wrong for him to read it, but hell, they probably have them at their house too. About after 15 minutes passed when he felt he was being followed. He turned around to see that Hinata had been following him for a little while. He smirked as went around the corner and stopped waiting for the girl to follow. She did. As she went around the corner, she found herself face with the one she was following. After a minute, Naruto was the one who broke the silence. "Hello, my name's Naruto Uzumaki, yours is?" "Hi Hinata Hyuga, nice to meet you," she said with a slight blush starting to form. This one must have a bit of a confidence problem, that stuttering just makes it obvious. "Nice to meet you too. Anyway, I'm in a bit of a hurry to get to my place, so do you mind if we resumed this conversation at the academy tomorrow?" "And no, I don't mind at all," she said while twiddling her fingers. "Great, see ya tomorrow," Naruto said before beginning to walk away. "See you tomorrow, Naruto," she said before walking towards her house as well. Naruto's apartment. Naruto was laying on his bed reading Makeout Paradise Volume 1 when all of a sudden, "Hey Naruto." A little orange frog wearing a purple jacket greeted him at the window, holding a scroll. "Oh hey Gamakichi, Jiraiya have a message for me," Naruto said as he reached for the scroll. "Yeah," he said, "they were directions to a old stomping ground out in the forest of his, he figured you could use it." The frog said, turning to face the outside. "Tell Jiraiya I said thanks," Naruto said, opening the scroll. "No problem." With that, Gamakichi hopped out the window. When Naruto was finished with the scroll, he put it under his bed with the rest and began reading Makeout Paradise again. "I'll have to check that place out tomorrow after the lesson at the academy tomorrow," he thought before returning to his book. After about 2 hours he put the book away and had some dinner, got ready for bed, and when he jumped into bed he began thinking about his new life in Konoha. "Well, at least I won't be bored. Academy Month 3. Last time. Well, at least I won't be bored. 3 months later. At least I won't be bored. I really spoke too soon," Naruto thought as he began to rub his temples trying to prevent the impending headache. It had been 3 months since Naruto's first day in the academy, and he was already wanted summer vacation to begin. Since his first day at the academy he had toned down the amount of intelligence he displayed so that he wouldn't bring too much unwanted attention to himself. After all, having fangirls would be a bitch. Speaking of fangirls, Sakura and Ino were already starting their daily ranting about who would sit with Sasuke, who would be his this and that, and nag. If he had the chance he would have killed those 2 harpies right on the spot. That wasn't the only thing causing his tremendous headache. Iruka had started the lesson on taijutsu. And guess who his practice dummy is? I'll give ya a few seconds. If you guessed Naruto, then you are correct. Not only would Iruka constantly target Naruto in taijutsu, he would also do it whenever there was a question that he thought he couldn't possibly answer, and whenever he tried to catch Naruto reading one of his Makeout Paradise books, and whenever he fell asleep in class, but then again those were actually good reasons. Another fact that annoyed him to death was Jiraiya. Naruto was grateful to Jiraiya for the hidden spot and the training scroll. But what annoyed him was the training scroll didn't really have any exercises in it. More or less it was just a list of what Naruto should try to learn before graduation. This wasn't much of a problem. What was a problem was that the place he was supposed to go, the Shinobi Library, never let him in. Naruto would have to find a way into the library, but he didn't have many options. He could knock out the guards at the front of the library with the sexy jutsu, but then Naruto remembered what happened the last time he used it. "I swear, if it wasn't for the fact he wrote Makeout Paradise I would have guessed he was a pedophile. I mean seriously, he calls that research. Due to the perverted nature of Jiraiya's research on Naruto, Argonaut removed that portion from his story and now requests that instead of you imagining Jiraiya chasing Naruto through the streets with a crazed perverted look in his eyes and a notepad scribbling violently while also tearing his clothes off, and forcing him to transform, to imagine a panda bear eating bamboo. That was the worst week of my life and I'm sure as hell not going to risk it happening again. Oh god, bad mental images. while Naruto just started beating his temples in order to get rid of that little memory. Iruka was looking at him with a curious look in his eye, but just shook it off thinking it must be something from that book he was reading. The bell rang out signaling the end of class for today. Naruto was just about to get out of his seat when Naruto, I want you to stay behind after class, I have something to ask you. He asked in a calm voice, which Naruto was actually a little surprised by because normally when Iruka talked to him he usually had some tension in his voice. Naruto took the seat at the other end of Iruka's desk. He took a quick glance over Iruka in order to see if there was much a threat from the teacher. He was once again shocked when he saw Iruka actually look calm, and only a little flustered, but Naruto didn't seem to be the cause of it. After a few moments of silence, Iruka began what would be a very interesting day to say the least. Listen, Naruto, I have a small question to ask of you. A question, Iruka-sensei. What is it? Iruka's expression turned from calm to a little more tense. It's that book, Make Out Paradise. I know you have it. I'm not going to force you to give it to me, but I want to know who gave it to you. Shit, was all Naruto could think at the moment. If he told Iruka who gave him the book, he would probably receive a beating from Jiraiya afterward, but if he didn't, who knows what would happen. I don't have any idea what you're talking about, sensei, Naruto said as he started sweating. Iruka became visibly annoyed. All he wanted to know is how he got it. Naruto, I won't punish you if you just tell me. And don't try to play dumb, I've seen the book. Double shit. I can't worm my way out of it, maybe I can make him back off. Naruto thought as he started sweating even more. Iruka-sensei, I'm not allowed to tell anyone, can we just leave it at that? A vein on Iruka's forehead threatened to erupt. No Naruto, you have to tell me or else I'll burn the book. Naruto suddenly froze. As perverted as the book was, it had a great story to go along with it. He was just about to figure out who Todd was going to pick out, a Maria or Rachel, even though he knew that DD didn't really love Rachel, he just wanted her for her fortune. Iruka, look, Kiba is trying to eat a squirrel again, he said as he pointed out the window. Again, Iruka said as he opened the window. Kiba, I thought I told you to leave that damn squirrel alone. Sorry Iruka-sensei, Kiba said while spitting the poor squirrel out. Thank you for telling me, Naruto. Now about the book. Was all Iruka got out before he noticed that the only thing in the room was him and a cloud of dust shaped like Naruto. Naruto ran through the streets of Konoha, knowing he only had a 5-second head start of a very angry Iruka. He looked behind him for 1 second and nearly pissed himself right on the spot when he saw a really pissed off Iruka charging through the streets right at him. Naruto jumped to the rooftops, cursing himself for increasing the weights on his body just the night before. It was a chase that Konoha would not soon forget. Kunai were found everywhere, clones were put out of existence. Hell, Naruto even tried to use the sexy jutsu in order to try to knock Iruka out cold, but Iruka was so pissed at the moment he only got a bloody nose. Finally, after an hour, Iruka finally caught Naruto. Confiscated the book. Now, we are going to see what it is about this book that makes you want to keep it so badly, he said as he opened the book and started reading. But as he continued to read, he noticed that there were paragraphs missing, not just that but also certain sentences. Iruka was confused. From what he could read, it was a perfectly good book, with a nice plot flow. But he heard it was perverted beyond rational human thought. Naruto, why are there parts of this book missing? Well, you see Iruka-sensei, when I first started reading the book I was hooked to the story. But the hentai that was in there kinda disgusted me, so I decided to read the book without reading the hentai. I did that by covering the really perverted stuff that isn't needed for the story with a genjutsu that makes it look blank in some parts. Iruka-sensei, are you still going to burn it? Please don't, I was about to see who Todd would choose, Naruto said with sad puppy dog eyes. Iruka was shell-shocked. Not only did Naruto perform a pretty good genjutsu, but what also shocked him was that he wasn't the pervert he thought Naruto was when he first found out he read this book. No Naruto, I'm not going to burn this book, he said, tossing the book back to Naruto. I also want to apologize. The only reason I was pushing you to tell me was that I thought that you were a pervert. Naruto glared at Iruka while thinking, how could he think I'm perverted like Arrow, I mean Jiraiya. So if there is anything I can do to make up for this, I'd be glad to do it. That's what he said. But at the same time he was thinking, great, now he will probably force me to do something weird or embarrassing. This could actually be useful. Naruto thought as he began to smirk. Okay Iruka-sensei, I have 3 favors to ask of you. First, you will but me ramen tonight for dinner, and as much as I want. I have a bad feeling in my wallet, but okay, I guess I can do that. Second, tomorrow you will help me find a way to get into the shinobi library, you see the people there won't let me in. Iruka was actually very shocked that people would stop one trying to become a ninja from getting into the library, then he felt a bit of disgust that they would even do that. Yeah sure Naruto, I'd be glad to. And finally, this situation with being our practice dummy during taijutsu practice, well. Naruto whispered something into Iruka's ear, afterward you could see Iruka and Naruto bursting out laughing. Yeah Naruto, ha ha ha, I'll get to work on that tomorrow, don't worry. So about that ramen, let's go. With that they ran to Ichiraku where, amazingly, they both liked to eat. So after a few bowls of ramen, Iruka and Naruto began talking, Iruka about his teaching. Certain skills he knew, and even giving hints to Naruto about how to pull certain pranks on people, saying that back in his day he was a prankster himself. Naruto talked about the other kids in class mostly. But they both began talking about themselves eventually, likes, dislikes, hobbies, stories about themselves. They actually got to know a lot about each other, became fast friends you could say. When it was late they both went back to the house, after paying for 27 bowls of ramen, 22 for Naruto, 5 for Iruka. Despite the bill, Iruka thought he had gotten to know Naruto better. And found a new respect for him. Naruto felt like he had a new friend after today. The academy next day. The next day at the academy began like any other. Iruka took role, the 2 harpies known as Sakura and Ino began yelling so meeting about Sasuke. Then taijutsu practice came, most of the class waited for Naruto's beating to commence. Well, today class we are going to start a more aggressive style of taijutsu, so. Everyone had a different reaction. Ino and Sakura got out buckets of popcorn to enjoy the Naruto thrashing. Sasuke started chuckling thinking about how the idiot was about to be bent into different shapes. Hiba and Akamaru threw a quick smirk at Naruto. Shikamaru actually woke up to see what would happen. Choji stopped eating for a minute. Shino just stared. ND Hinata had a worried expression on her face. Sasuke Uchiha, get down here so I can demonstrate. That is when the largest bomb in the history of the academy had been dropped. Everyone was watching Sasuke get beaten relentlessly. Naruto was rolling on the ground holding his ribs as he heard Sasuke's ribs crack. Shino gave a quick smirk. Hiba yelled something about putting him in a headlock. Sakura and Ino said something about his arms and how they are not supposed to bend that way. Shikamaru stayed awake for the entire thing and cheered for Iruka along with Choji, and Hinata couldn't keep herself from laughing at Sasuke's predicament. At the end of class, Sasuke was seen forced into a pretzel shape, and Naruto and Iruka could be seen laughing on their way to the shinobi library. I has got to be one of the best days of my life, was all Naruto could think of at the end of the day. Academy, Sasuke bashing. The Academy month 7 day before April Fool's Day. That day in the Academy was like any other during the past 4 months. Naruto had a huge grin plastered on his face. Sasuke was in the hospital where doctors were bending him out of the pretzel shape, but they weren't really trying. During the beginning of the bending process, Sasuke said a few colorful words around the hospital, and to his displeasure the fine medical staff didn't take to it too well, so with every little bone they moved back into place they, accidentally, broke 2 more. Needless to say he was in there for a very long time, and every day his room would be filled with flowers and sweets from his fan club. Speaking of which, during class today the fangirls were a little more happy than normal. Sasuke would be coming back tomorrow, even if it was in a full body cast. Naruto couldn't wait. Heard the news from Iruka about Sasuke's cast, and he began to think of possible pranks to pull on him. As he thought, the grin on his face got wider and wider and wider, till it looked like it would tear off his face. Tomorrow Sasuke's reputation is going down the toilet. Along with all his stupid fangirls. Thought Naruto as he began to laugh like a maniac. The hospital midnight. It was midnight in Konoha. There was a new moon that night so that the entire town seemed to be lost in darkness, perfect conditions for our little pranksters to start what would be Sasuke's torture. Naruto went the front of the hospital dressed head to toe in black in order to blend into the night. He climbed up the side of the wall, and into Sasuke's room. As Naruto entered he noticed just how much of Sasuke was in the cast. When they said it was going to be a full-body cast they weren't kidding. His entire body was in the cast save for some hole for his eyes, and holes leading to his nostrils in order for him to be able to breathe. This is too perfect, Naruto thought as he sneaked quietly over to Sasuke. Once he was right beside Sasuke he got out a scroll, and channeled his chakra into it. The Re was a large puff of smoke coming out of the seals in the scroll, and when it was over, there were paint brushes, makeup, different colors of paint bombs in general, a scroll instructing on how certain secondary functions of genjutsu. Well, time to get to work. Naruto thought as he began painting frantically on Sasuke's cast. The Academy April Fool's Day. Today at the Academy was going to be quite different than normal. It wasn't that anyone other than Naruto knew it, everyone just had a feeling, you know the one you get when something really bad is about to happen. Well, it started off normally. Iruka took roll, waiting for Sasuke to arrive, knowing that it would take a while before he could get here. All the fangirls and Naruto were on the edge of their seats, Naruto for what was about to happen. The fangirls for Sasuke. Everyone began to hear laughing and lots of it in the hallway. Naruto knew it meant Sasuke was on his way. The door began to open as a figure walked through it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Naruto counted down to the stampede of fangirls as they ran to see Sasuke, only to be stopped about 5 feet away from him. What they saw totally blew their minds. There was Sasuke, covered head to toe in a cast, except for his eyes and nostrils. If it were left at that then it would be normal, but what was on the cast was what shocked them into a very deep stupor. On the chest of Sasuke's cast were everything you could possibly think of as girly, from rainbows to ponies covered his entire cast. On the face of his cast was a bunch of makeup, black lipstick where his lips would be, black blush, black eyeliner, and all that. Where his fingernails and toenails were there was black nail polish. That wasn't the worst part though. In the very center of the cast, written in a very pretty pink were the words, "Sorry ladies, I'm a gay, emo, drag queen." As if he was a radioactive time bomb getting ready to go off, all of the Sasuke Uchiha fan club, except for Ino and Sakura, jumped back into their seats. The entire class just started rolling over in laughter. Iruka couldn't even keep himself from making fun of his student. Naruto was laughing the hardest. Phase 1 complete now for the Harpies to play their part. Naruto thought, trying to stop laughing. To say Sakura and Ino were pale was an understatement, they were white as Sasuke's cast before Naruto's little redecoration. Almost on impulse they started trying clean the stuff off Sasuke, only to discover that it wasn't coming off. "Hey Sakura, maybe it's a genjutsu," Ino said as she got tired of trying to clean the stuff off. "Yeah, that's the only way this stuff could stay on even when we are cleaning it." As she said that, they flew through hand signs meant for the disruption of genjutsu. Bingo, Naruto thought, smirking as they fell into the first part of the trap. When they tried to destroy the genjutsu, suddenly something started flashing on Sasuke's cast, those Floridas. HS blew up, spreading paint all over Sakura and Ino. It didn't even affect the stuff on Sasuke's cast. "Let's try one more time," Sakura said, flashing through the hand signs again. Sakura no, was all Ino could get out before more flashes appeared on Sasuke's body. Naruto quickly signaled for Iruka to move a few feet back, which he did before the flashes exploded this time. Now instead of paint, Sakura and Ino were covered in black, you know the kinda black anime characters get covered in whenever they get caught in an explosion or shocked or get flames shot at them, along with Sasuke's cast, which no longer had the first bit of paint on it. As Sakura and Ino slowly walked back into their chairs and fell into them, Sasuke was cursing like mad. Of course no one could make out what He was saying because the cast covered his mouth, but if you could hear it, here is what it would sound like. Damn you Naruto, when I get out of this. $#ing cast, I'm going to beat you. $ing ass all the way to. $ing Suna and back. Stop $ing laughing at me, damn it. Phase 2 complete. Now all I have to do is wait till the end of class and then deploy the final stage of my prank. Naruto said with tears rolling out of his eyes from all the laughing. At the end of the day, Iruka asked someone to take Sasuke back to the hospital. Normally the fangirls would have done it, but since they were still in their stupor, Naruto said he would do it. As he put Sasuke into his wheelchair, he rolled him to the stairs. Note, they are on the 3rd floor. Oh, they don't have a wheelchair ramp. Guess we're going to have to. Oh hey. Someone dropped some money. Naruto left Sasuke right on the edge of the stairs, and as he bent over to pick up the money, he accidentally bumped into Sasuke's wheelchair, sending him down all 3 floors worth of chairs. When Sasuke reached the bottom floor, he crashed into the wall. After that, his cast cracked wide open to reveal a beaten, burned, and out cold Sasuke Uchiha. For the 2nd time in that school year, an ambulance carried Sasuke back to the hospital. Naruto sat on the roof reading his Make-Out Paradise book, grinning at his accomplishment. He's not coming back for a while. Turns a page in the book. Rachel, he doesn't love you. Orin Part 1. Academy. 2 months from summer vacation. Everyone in the academy were becoming extremely excited with the thought of summer vacation fast approaching. Each person had their own idea of what they were going to do during summer. Shino was going insect collecting with his family. Kiba and Akamaru were going on a summer-long hike with their family. Shikamaru was going to hang around town and play shogi with his dad, and also most likely end up doing chores for his mom. Choji and his family would most likely just eat. Hinata was to train with her father at home in the Juken style. Sasuke was probably going to be in the hospital for who knows how long. And it was brought upon the Sasuke Uchiha fan club by themselves to hunt down and destroy Naruto for the crime of hurting their Sasuke. But there was one whose plans did not center around family and being with them, and it was Naruto. Man, it's times like these when being an orphan just sucks, was what he thought when he looked around the classroom at the kids who were talking about what they were going to do with their families. And at the glares coming from members of the Sasuke Uchiha fan club members, though he really didn't think much about them, since Jiraiya had taught him one of his jutsus. The transparent escape jutsu. He said that he used to mostly use it for peeking, but Naruto found a new more survival-based use for it, and that was escaping from deranged Sasuke fangirls. I mean, I know Jiraiya will come to visit me now and again. But he's so busy with the volume of Make-Out Paradise. Old man Hokage will probably hang around with me, but he is the Hokage, so he's also going to be busy, and Iruka will also have some time for me. But he'll be getting ready for the next school year, so he won't have too much time. Naruto thought, with the frown on his face growing even deeper. Sure, he liked some time to himself so that he could read Make-Out Paradise and study at the Shinobi Library. But sometimes it was just too much alone time. Though he had put the time to good use, he had learned all 12 hand signs and how they affect chakra for jutsus. With that knowledge, he had even made his own original jutsu, fire release, volcanic smokescreen jutsu. He had even been able to learn the shuriken shadow clone jutsu from Sarutobi. He also learned earth release, inner decapitation jutsu by reading some of the genin jutsu scrolls in the Shinobi Library. But even with all he has obtained, it doesn't matter if the only people who care about you aren't there to share your success with you. But I will have to put that behind me. As soon as I leave this building, the fangirls from hell are going to be after me. The thought of running from crazy fangirls kinda got Naruto to stop thinking of his plight. At 3 o'clock, like every other day, the bell began to ring, signaling the end of the school day. Naruto was about to leave, but then he thought maybe some company would do him good. Hey Iruka-sensei, you free today? Cause if you are, maybe we can go to Ichiraku's and have a few bowls. Naruto said while sporting his trademark grin. Sorry Naruto, I'm so busy right now, maybe tomorrow. Oh okay, see ya later Iruka-sensei, was all Naruto could say before he walked out the door. Naruto, I hope my Quest for an assistant teacher goes through so that I can have some time to spend with you. Iruka thought before he returned to his work. Outside the academy, Naruto wasn't 5 feet away from the academy when all of a sudden, Naruto Uzumaki, a horde of angry fangirls screeched, "You are wanted for the heresy of defiling and humiliating our beloved Sasuke. Prepare to die." Again, this is the 50th time this month. Naruto thought as he began running from the horde of now harpy-like fangirls. He ran in zigzags, circles, climbed up ladders, jumped across rooftops, and even swam across a river to try and shake the fangirls. But to no avail. So Naruto did what every person does whenever they are being chased by something more terrifying than sin itself. He runs into a dead end. Watch a whole bunch of horror films. You'll see what I'm talking about. So without even thinking, he starts performing hand signs like crazy. As the fangirls closed in on their prey, finally he finished the set of hand signs and said very quietly, "Transparent escape jutsu." And he was gone like the wind. Feeling very satisfied with his escape from the fangirls, he decided to head over to the Hokage Tower. I wonder if old man Hokage feels like some ramen today. Naruto. Speak of the devil. There was Sarutobi, walking towards Naruto. He seemed in a particularly good mood today for some reason. "Hello there, Naruto." "Hey old man. What's up?" Sarutobi sighed at the nickname Naruto had given. Of course it was cute at first, but now. Sarutobi shook his head as he tried to get to the point. "Nothing much, Naruto. But I would like to go down to Ichiraku's ramen in order to discuss something with you." "Okay, sounds good, but you're paying." All of a sudden Sarutobi got the feeling that it was very good that his pay as Hokage was high. Ichiraku's ramen 20 minutes later. And he was right. Naruto in the last 15 minutes had gone through 27 bowls of ramen and counting, while he had only gone through 5. How can he eat so much? I mean, I have seen full-grown men who couldn't eat as much as him. Sarutobi thought as his wallet got lighter and lighter. "Anyway Naruto, I have something to discuss with you," Sarutobi said as he signaled for Ichiraku to leave them alone for a few minutes. Was all Naruto could get out with his face stuffed full of ramen. There have been reports of a strange man wandering around the area. He is apparently around 6 feet tall. He wears a rather large red cloak-like coat, with a large plate of metal on the left shoulder. Under it he wears what appears to be body armor. He also has an arm guard on his right arm, black pants, boots, and glasses. As for more specific, he has a scar across his right eye. Whenever he is seen, his left arm is usually hanging limp in his coat. His hair is completely black using a yonder orange shut up and is rather short, save for a small ponytail. In the back, he also carries a rather large sword around with him. Also he has at his side with what appears to be a large bottle of sake. Sarutobi took a breath and continued to read from the paper. "We are not sure yet if he is friend or foe." Whenever confronted, he at first shows no sign of aggression, and claims to just be a wandering guardian. Whenever he is pushed for questioning, he claims that he means no harm and is just passing through. Of course it's about that time that we try to force him. Naruto, I want you to guess how many ninja he knocked out before the fight was over. Mind you, there were 10. Naruto looked confused for a second. "I dunno old man, 5 maybe 6. "All of them," Sarutobi said. He then looked at Naruto. To say that he was in shock would be an understatement. 10 ninja, knocked out by one guy. I mean, even if they were chunin. All 10. Naruto thought, not even bothering to eat his ramen. "Anyway," Sarutobi said to get Naruto's attention, "I am telling you this so that you can keep your eyes open. If you see him, try to see if he will tell you anything. If he does, then come back to me." And with that, Sarutobi got up, paid the bill, and ran back to the tower in order to try to prevent having to pay for any more ramen. Naruto was in shock, but he got over it as soon as his last bowl of ramen was placed in front of him. He dug in and decided to head back to his spot to train some. Naruto's spot 15 minutes later. Naruto hurried to his spot for 2 reasons, both having to do with physical harm, fangirls, and villagers. As soon as he was at the trees outside of his spot, he stopped, frozen in both fear and shock. For there in his spot, resting on a rock, was a man, and that man fit Sarutobi's description perfectly. Cliffhanger. Ha 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 ha, my first cliffhanger. Oren Part 2. Naruto stood frozen where he stood there barely 20 feet away from him was the man that had knockout 10 ninja of Konoha. At first he didn't have any idea what to do. He could run to Sarutobi, but what if he heard him? He could try to fight him. But if he was good enough to take out 10 ninja, what chance did Naruto stand? Then he remembered that Sarutobi told him to try to talk to him, so that's what I'm going to do. But first, in case things got a little dicey, he thought, forming his hands into a familiar cross shape. The man was sitting there on the rock he was on, waiting for his little visitor to show himself. The man knew he was there the entire time he had been there, he was just waiting. After a while he thought that he would have to start this little conversation. Hey, you in the bushes, come on out, I won't bite you. After he had said this, there was a sudden gasp in the bushes. A few seconds later Naruto had shown himself. A kid. This is a bit of a surprise, especially after those ninja they sent earlier. He thought as he took a few glances at Naruto. Doesn't seem to pose much of a threat. He thought as he scooted over on the rock. Come over here. Naruto quickly obeyed the order and sat on the available space on the rock. He looked at the man. He fit Sarutobi's description right down to the ponytail. So, what's your name, kid? As soon as the man asked, the Naruto started fuming over being called a kid. Hey, don't call me a kid, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Remember that name, cause I'm going to be Hokage one day. Naruto said, puffing himself up to make himself look bigger. The man couldn't help but chuckle at the boy's outburst. He reminded the man of a certain other loudmouth blonde. Alright, Naruto, so what are you doing here? This question once again led Naruto to a rant. What am I doing here? I could ask you that very same question. This is my secret training area. That explain a few things. The man thought as he glanced around, seeing kunai stick out of trees. Scorch marks around the entire area. He even noticed that the rock had even been beaten up a little. Looks like you've been busy. The man said under his breath. What did you say? Naruto said, not being able to hear him. Nothing, but as to what I'm doing here, I wander, you see, and I found this spot. I had been walking for a long while, so I decided it might be a good spot to rest. Alright, I believe ya, Naruto said, not sensing a lie. So why did you come so close to Konoha? Naruto asked, deciding to get some answers for the Hokage. Like I said, I wander around, helping people who need help if they deserve help. The man said, being very straightforward. Oh, are you some kinda hero? Naruto asked, slightly excited. The man's face showed some sadness in it after the question, saying, I'm no hero, I'm just a, trailing of at the very end. Naruto just sat there waiting for an answer. Oren. Naruto was a bit confused because he never heard of an Oren. My name, the man said, sensing his confusion. Oh, nice to meet you, Oren. Likewise, Oren said while looking at the kid he had just met. Oren was good at reading a person's thoughts by looking at someone's face. He could tell the kid's mind was busy with some other thought. What are you thinking about? Naruto was surprised at Oren's question. How could he tell that he was thinking of something outside their current conversation? Well, I was thinking about some stuff, but you probably don't have time to listen. Naruto, I'm a wanderer, I have all the time in the world. Oren said while turning to face the kid. Well, you see, Oren, I'm an academy student and it's summer vacation soon, and all the other kids are talking about how they were going to spend time with their families and stuff. And well, Oren waited for a few seconds so that Naruto could get it together. I don't have a family to spend time with. Oren immediately knew what the kid was going through. He had seen the same thing with Titus while he was growing up. I mean, I have a few people to spend time with, Jiraiya. You mean the perverted writer of that Make-Out Paradise book series? Yeah, Oren shuddered, hoping the kid wasn't going to become a pervert. Anyway, he took care of me from when I was 6 to when I was 10, and now he checks up on me now and then, but he is jutsu busy writing the next part of his book. Oren was getting into the kid's conversation with the last part. Then there is Iruka-sensei, my teacher at the academy. He spends time with me, but he also has a lot on his plate with the academy and all. Then there is Old Man Hokage. Oren was surprised to hear that this kid knew the Hokage personally. He talks with me every now and then, he even buys me ramen from time to time. But being Hokage, he also has a lot to do. So what you're saying is that you're upset because you're going to be alone a lot during this summer vacation thing that is coming up. Naruto nodded. Was all Oren could say before he got up. Where are you going? Not much to do around here, so I'm heading out. Wait, I have a few more questions. You are not ready to hear my story. Wait, damn it. Naruto yelled as he hurled a kunai at Oren, who just simply tilted his head to the side to dodge it. The kid is pretty feisty, Oren thought with a bit of a grin on his face. Alright then Naruto, how about this, if you can beat me in a fight, then I'll tell you every little detail about myself. Naruto thought about the proposal for a second. He figured that it was worth a shot. Alright fine then, but don't start complaining when I win. With that Naruto got into a fighting pose. Hey, I won't even need to use both of arms to beat you. Oroen said, and without a second of hesitation got down into his stance. They both stared each other down for a few seconds, then Naruto made the first move, flinging a few shuriken at Oren, who simply deflected them all with his giant sword. Then without missing a beat he charged towards Naruto. He tried to slice Naruto's leg off. Naruto simply jumped to dodge his move, then he tried to strike Naruto across the head by swinging the blunt part of his sword toward him. Naruto did a mid-air backflip to dodge this attack, landing on the ground. Then tried to land a kick into Oren's stomach, which was caught by Oren's left arm. I thought you said you didn't need both arms to beat me. Naruto said with a grin. I don't, but it makes it easier. Oren replied. Using his free leg he tried to kick Oren across the face. Oren simply dropped Naruto's leg and tilted his head back to dodge it. Naruto without any legs fell onto the clearing ground with a thud. Oren using the chance given to him, IED, to finish the fight right there, lifting his sword into the air and thrusting it down vertically to stab Naruto. Naruto rolled out of the way and quickly got up and sent a chakra-powered punch into Oren's jaw. Oren decided to use this force to his advantage. He tightened his grip on his sword and using the momentum from the punch swung himself around and then delivered a powerful kick into Naruto's side. You're going to have to do better than that in order to, was all he could say before Naruto disappeared into a puff of smoke. What? Oren said, scanning the clearing when he saw several more shuriken being thrown at him. But like before, he deflected them all with his sword. That is when he noticed 5 Narutos charging right at him. The kid can make solid clones. This is interesting. He's actually going to force me to step up my game. Oren thought, grinning like mad. Oren then began channeling some energy into his sword before he dashed at the Narutos. The Narutos braced for impact. But then Oren jumped up into the air, placing his sword into the vertical stabbing position again before shouting, Bushido style, Dragon Fang technique. He then plunged his sword into the ground and all the energy in the sword shot into the ground under the Narutos, then it shot out from under them in the form of flames scorching them. Oren waited to see which one was real. All of a sudden all 5 Narutos disappear. What the hell? Oren thought before another Naruto shot from under the ground and punched him in the gut, propelling him back a few feet. Oren read J. Usted himself in midair in order to land on his feet. Tell me, how did you do that? Oren asked, actually surprised that the kid had been able to make such an impressive move. Well, before the fig. I created a shadow clone and sent it in to talk to you instead of me in case things turned out like this. Then when you destroyed that one, I create the others before I hid myself underground with earth release, inner decapitation jutsu. But instead of pulling you under, I thought a good punch would do. Naruto said, grinning the entire time. Nicely done for an academy student. Oren said smugly. If you like that then. Naruto said, making a set of hand signs, you'll love my original jutsu. Before Oren could even respond, Naruto used his fire release, volcanic smokescreen jutsu to cove most of the area Oren was in with a thick gray-colored smoke. Now then, Naruto said, making the cross-hand sign, to prepare for the next part. Meanwhile inside the cloud, Oren was astounded by Naruto's skill. This jutsu is genius. Not only can I not see my own hand in front of my face, but this smoke, it's so hot. I'm sweating like crazy, if I don't get out of here, I'll pass out due to dehydration. But who knows what he has waiting, oh well. Oren thought before dashing towards the outside like a madman. When he got out he saw that even more shuriken were thrown at him. Come on, don't you have any other tricks? Oren asked grinning. Just this, shuriken shadow clone jutsu. With that the number of shuriken were multiplied by at least triple the original amount. Damn, I can't block all of them. Oren thought while deflecting what shurikens he could, being careful to get the ones aiming for his torso and head, while most of the other grazed his arms and legs. And he was done. He looked up to see if there were any more, when all of a sudden he felt a pain in his side. He looked down and found that a kunai had been stabbed into his side by Naruto. Guess I win, huh? Naruto said with a huge grin. You did good, if only you took into account one thing. And that is? Naruto asked with the grin on his face wiped off. This may have been a killing blow, but the thing is, you can't kill what is already dead. Then all of a sudden glowing multicolored objects began to fly around Oren's body. Naruto backed away a few feet noticing that as the objects flew into Oren's wound it began to close up. That's why you beat those ninja, it wasn't they weren't capable, they just weren't able to. Naruto said thinking that there was once again competence among the ninja of Konoha. Oh no, they didn't even make a mark on me, in fact if I had taken you more seriously, you might not have too. Naruto quickly shuddered again, thanking whatever god watched over them that he was still alive. Anyway, see you later. Good match, Oren said before walking off. Yeah, see ya Oren, Naruto said with his grin returning to him. Oh, and Naruto, about your problem. During my story I had known many people that were very important to me, even though our time was short, I still never remember ever having been upset knowing that it would be. He said thinking back to Jecht, Braska, Titus, Yuna and the rest. I guess what I'm saying, is that you should appreciate the people you have, even if they aren't around much or for much longer. Oren said walking back into the forest. Naruto thought about what Oren said and realized that he was right. He should be thankful that the people who are around him that love him are around, even if they aren't around much. He smiled and began vlacking back to Konoha. It's pretty late, I can tell the Hokage tomorrow after the academy. Naruto thought as he walked back to his apartment. Next day at the academy 5 minutes after the final bell. Naruto Uzumaki. A horde of angry fangirls screeched, "You are wanted for the heresy of defiling and humiliating our beloved Sasuke. Prepare to die. Whatever, can we get this over with? I gotta tell the Hokage something." Naruto said once again, running in zigzags, circles, up ladders, across rooftops, and swimming across a river and ended up in his little alley. But then he noticed that the fangirls weren't coming. He looked around the corner and found that the fangirls were staring at a tall man, and slowly becoming pale, then glowing. Objects flew around him and flew into where his right eye was. One of the fangirls threw up her lunch before all of them started running at light speed away from the man. The man turned around and Naruto immediately recognized him. Oren, what did you do to them? I just used a few scare tactics on them. So you made yourself an enemy of someone's fangirls, right? Oren said as he remembered the dreadful memories of Titus, fangirls during his time in Zanarkand. Looks like for an academy student you have it pretty hard around here, right? Naruto nodded. Well then, perhaps you are in the need of the service of a guardian. I don't charge, all I ask is for his food, a place to stay, and sake. Naruto thought about this for a moment. I can even teach you a thing or two about using swords. That was all Naruto needed to hear to jump at the opportunity. Yes, of course I would love you to be my guardian. Naruto thought, jumping up and down for joy. Works every time. Oren thought. Anyway, we better tell you Hokage about the little deal we made, okay? Oren said, trying to make sure no one saw the scene Naruto was making. Yeah, Naruto said, dragging Oren by the hand towards the Hokage tower. Meanwhile, a certain perverted book writer watched the entire scene with a big grin plastered on his face. Naruto, how you seem to make almost every complete stranger like you. I'll never know. With that he returned to what he was originally doing, spying on the women's bathhouse next door. The Genin exams. Naruto and Oren's apartment. Beep. Beep, beep. Went the alarm in Naruto's now two-bedroom apartment. With Oren moving in, Sarutobi decided to allow them a new, bigger room to stay in. It was better than Naruto's last apartment room. The bedrooms in Th.is.1 were actually separate from the living area. Each bedroom had one bed, a dresser, a walk-in closet, and a bathroom. The floor of the entire apartment room, except for the kitchen and bathroom, was covered with a blue shag carpet. The walls were still painted plain white. The kitchen was larger now to help with the need to feed a ninja and his guardian. It basically had the same design as his previous one. The living area was also much larger. It had a couch, a bookshelf, a TV with a VCR, sorry I don't think they are at the DVD player stage yet, and even a secret door covered by a genjutsu. For the two to keep more secret items. Also, Sarutobi had increased Naruto's allowance, to help him cover two people's living expense. Oren was also just getting up. He asked Sarutobi for an apartment room with thin walls so he could hear what was going on in the entire house. Being a light sleeper also helped. He remembered that day in the Hokage office nearly about a year ago. Flashback. Sarutobi laid on the floor with his mouth wide open. He wasn't expecting such an amazing development. This guy had taken out 10 ninjas and, even with the fact he had not taken Naruto seriously at all, Naruto beat him. Even more surprising is that he had offered to become a guardian of Naruto, after only knowing him for a day. Sarutobi slowly got up off the floor and back into his chair. He stared at the two for a moment in order to take in all the information that was handed to him in such a calm fashion. Well, this is certainly a surprise. I never expected this when I told you about this man. So tell me again what happened. Sarutobi asked in order to make sure he hadn't gone senile. Naruto was about to speak when Oren started for him. Well, Lord Hokage, 2 days ago around 4 o'clock in the morning when those ninja had found me, they proceeded to try to find out information on me. When I decided that I didn't wish to tell them anything, they tried to use physical force on me. The battle was over before it had even started. After the fight, even thought they didn't land a single hit on me. I was very drained from the fight, so I made my way to a clearing. When I arrived, I proceeded to collapse. It was around sunrise. I woke up about 3:45 in the afternoon. I was still tired, so I decided to rest on a rock. That was when I noticed Naruto in the bushes of the clearing. When I told him to come out and sit by me, he did. And we began talking. After about 15 minutes I decided that I was to head out again. He tried to stop me, trying to ask me more questions. When I refused to answer any, he decided to use force. When the battle began, I didn't expect much from an academy student, so I held much of my power back. That was a mistake. He had set up most of the fight in ways that the ninja before didn't either have time to do, or even thought to do. By the end of the battle I was struck with a kunai, but as we have explained, I am dead, so it didn't matter, but I recognized the fact that he won our spar. After I left, I was thinking back to our fight, back to his dream, and back to his ability. I also remembered a person from my past that he reminded me of, and I decided that he perhaps was the reason I was here. So I made my way to Konoha. I witnessed him being chased by fangirls. After scarring them off, I had made an offer with him, not only to teach him how to use swords, but also to be his guardian. That's what I thought they said. Sarutobi thought with a sigh. It was obvious that this man was not telling any lie, and that he meant to protect Naruto. But there is something you should know about Naruto first, Sarutobi said with a grim look on his face. Naruto looked down at the floor as Sarutobi said this. Oren noticed this and his curiosity jumped. And that is, Sarutobi told Oren about the nine-tailed fox, and how it was sealed inside Naruto. Oren was surprised at this. He knew there was something about this kid, but this was more than he could imagine. Well, Lord Hokage, Oren began saying as Naruto's head sunk even lower. I am not exactly normal myself, as you know, so it is not my place to judge this boy. Naruto looked up at Oren, who gave him a pleasant grin, which Naruto gave an even bigger grin. Sarutobi was happy that there was another person who was able to see Naruto as he was, and not the fox. Well, only one thing to do, Sarutobi said, pulling a document out of his desk. I will allow Oren to be Naruto's guardian. You two will live in a new apartment, and I will give you a raised allowance in order to cover our expenses and also to let you buy anything else you need. Naruto ran up to Sarutobi and gave him a bear hug around his neck. Thank you, old man. He then walked back beside Orin. Yes, Lord Hokage, thank you. Orin said, bowing his head towards Sarutobi. You're both welcome. Now then to the matter of where you are to live. End flashback. The memory was still fresh in both their minds, as well as the events afterwards. Every day before summer, he and Orin would get up early and head out to the clearing. There they would practice with wooden swords in order to get Naruto used to using one. Orin decided to teach Naruto his style, but in order for him to use it without it being a hindrance, he would need to use weight training on Naruto. So he doubled the weight on Naruto's body, raising the total amount to 140 pounds of extra weight. That is a lot if you consider it was only 70 pounds before. The wooden sword weighed about 15 pounds to start. On the very first day Naruto could barely move at all. And by the end of practice he was exhausted from trying to move around with the sword. After a few months Naruto could finally move normally, with a lot of effort, and the real practice had begun. They would practice on form, train with weights, and Orin even began trying to teach him his first Bushido-style move after about 6 months, the Dragon Fang. At first Naruto couldn't even create one pillar, but now, 4 months later, he could do about 5. The kid, despite what the people at the academy think, is nothing short of a genius. It took me a year before I was allowed to be taught the Dragon Fang. And even then it took my half a year to create as many as he had in 4 months. I wonder how far this kid can go. Orin thought while remembering the time he has been here. After sword practice he would take Naruto to the academy for his lessons. No one really bothered Naruto while Orin was around, afraid of the possibility that what the fangirls described was true. After that they would head back into the woods where Orin would watch as Naruto trained his ninja skills. Now the weights were around 175 pounds on his body and 35 pounds on the practice sword. But Orin had allowed Naruto to carry a beginner sword in one of his sealing scrolls, so he could pull it out when he needed it. It was the same length as Orin's sword, but it wasn't as thick as Orin's sword. Also now Naruto's skill as a ninja increased greatly, his speed, strength, and stamina thanks to Orin's additional training skyrocketed. He even created a new original jutsu, Wind Release, Great Storm Winds Jutsu. Basically this jutsu just created a great gust of wind from Naruto's hands. And he had another jutsu in the works, Wind Release, Wind Sickle Jutsu. This jutsu is more complicated than the Great Storm Winds Jutsu, because it requires its user to gather enough chakra into the palm of their hand and then shape it into a kind of sickle blade shape with the air around it. He also mastered a jutsu from the library. Jiraiya had told him to at least master one medical ninjutsu. Problem was that there was practically the only one there, and that was the mystical palm jutsu. So he figured that he would at least humor the old man and learn enough of the move to heal someone, not enough to do the other fancy tricks. Naruto went to his closet to change his clothes. Naruto's attire changed when Orin arrived. Now instead of his orange jumpsuit, he wore a black t-shirt with the kanji for ninja on the front of it, with black long pants with red striped down the sides of hem. Also his shuriken holster was on the right leg, while pockets for scrolls were on the left. He wore black ninja sandals and a black fingerless glove on his left hand, with an arm guard like the one Orin wore on his right. Over top of the shirt, however, was a jacket similar to Orin's. However, he didn't have the high collar Orin had or the left shoulder plate, and there was the Konoha spiral on the back, stitched in black, and in order to separate it from the red, it was in thick. Also Naruto's jacket was a little tighter than the one Orin wore, loose enough to be flexible, tight enough to not get in the way. After they changed they went into the kitchen for breakfast. Even though Orin was dead he could still partake in life's pleasures, he just couldn't die or get sick ever. After breakfast they started heading towards the academy instead of the training area, because today were the genin exams, and they decided to do all their training after them. They were walking down the road to the academy, when all of a sudden an red-orange frog hopped out of the alley and signaled them towards it. Orin and Naruto followed the frog into the alley to find that the frog was Gamakichi. "Hey guys, what's shaken?" Gamakichi asked in a nonchalant manner. Hey Gamakichi, nothing much except for the exams today, how are you doing? Naruto asked the frog. Oren was standing there listening. He knew that the frog only came during the day to deliver important news. Oh, I'm doing good. But I got something to tell you guys from Jiraiya. Thought so. Oren thought in his head. What is it? Oren said, trying to get to the point. Well, you know Naruto's new teacher, right? Mizuki, I think it was. Gamakichi said, rubbing his head in an effort to remember what Jiraiya told him. Yeah, Oren and Naruto said at the same time. Well, you see, apparently he is a pretty skilled ninja, but it took him a few tries to pass the academy teacher exam. Gamakichi said, finally remembering. That's odd. Next to the genin exams, that exam is supposed to be pretty easy. Naruto said while Oren just paid attention to Gamakichi. Yeah, funny thing is, according to some information Jiraiya got, he was more than skilled to pass, but there were a few issues that caused him to be held back. And they were, Oren said with his interest brought back into the conversation. The information said that he was suspected of killing a fellow ninja during a mission he was on. They held him back for that. But after they couldn't get any real evidence, they let him pass. Gamakichi said in a more dismal tone. So what? You want us to be more careful around him or something? Naruto asked, not seeing the point of this talk. No, you need to let me finish. HMPH, as I was saying, in the past month a new rumor has popped up in the information on this guy. Rumors around say that he may make an attempt to steal the secret scroll of sealing. Gamakichi finished finally. So you want us to kick his ass? Naruto said, very excited, thinking that this just might make his ninja career skyrocket. No, Jiraiya wants you to bait him, Naruto, said Gamakichi, once again annoyed that he was interrupted again. What? Naruto said, very confused. Jiraiya said that this Mizuki guy isn't stupid. If we were to tell the Hokage, then when Mizuki sees the heightened security, he will know some thing is up, and that would endanger his information source. If you were to just kick the crap out of him for no reason, then you would look bad. After having said that, Naruto pouted, muttering something about stupid Sannin and their overly complex plans. We think that he will want to use you in trying to steal it, whether you pass or fail the genin exam, since he probably thinks it would be more believable to say the demon took it. Naruto gave a nod, knowing that this was probably true. But Jiraiya thinks it might be a good idea for you to fail, so that Mizuki will come into the fight not thinking of you as much of a threat. Gamakichi said to Naruto. Right. But what if I have to stay a academy student then if this works? Naruto asked out of concern for his career. Jiraiya said if Hat did happen, he would personally vouch for you. With that, Naruto nodded, thinking that it would be alright. And you, Oren? Oren turned to him this time. Jiraiya thinks that he will most likely intercept Naruto if you aren't around. So after you drop him off, don't stay like you normally do, go off and drink sake or something. It's been a couple weeks since your last binge drink NG night, right? Gamakichi said. Oren only nodded. It was true. He hadn't had one of his drink till you drop days for a while. He thought that with Naruto's mission, he could get some DNR drinking and relaxation in. Naruto shuddered. He remembered the last time Oren was drunk, a cat walked up to them on the street that night. Oren, who had a massive hangover from the earlier drinking, thought that the cat was some kind of threat and attacked it. Naruto knew there were only 2 times Oren ever drank. A. When he invented a new move and wanted to celebrate. Or B. To get some relaxation after a rough day, which didn't happen too often. Just every couple weeks. Also whenever he accidentally swallowed while performing the banishing blade. Okay, we'll do it. Oren said after putting thought into it. Yeah, we'll bust that Mizuki guy in the act. Believe it. Naruto said with a thumbs up. Good, just remember, you need another ninja with you in order to validate your story. Other than that, see y'all later. With that, the little frog disappeared. After their meeting with the frog, Naruto and Oren were once again walking towards the academy. They talked about many things on their way there. The entire time Oren could feel someone following them. After a few blocks, Oren turned around to see a brief glimpse of the 12-year-old Hinata Hyuga. She hid in an alley as soon as Oren turned to look. Oren raised an eyebrow to this. She is following Naruto again, I wonder why he doesn't notice, or has he? Hey Naruto, do you have the feeling we're being followed? Oren asked to see if Naruto has noticed. Well, I kinda always have that feeling, so I just dismiss it nowadays, I think it might be all in my head. Naruto said, walking off. So it's been going on long enough for him to just think his mind is playing tricks on him. Oren turned to face the alley where the girl was hiding again before turning back, thinking, she must really like him. I wonder, should I help him out a bit? Oren, while thinking this, had a grin on his face. Naruto noticed this and wondered why he was grinning. He doesn't usually grin unless he has something sneaky planned. Probably something to do with his drinking night tonight. After another 10 minutes of walking, they arrived at the academy and said their goodbyes. Be safe, Naruto, Oren said with more concern in his voice. See y'all later, Oren. And don't go hurting anyone's cat while you're drinking, okay? Naruto said with a snicker. Oren also let out a laugh and walked away. Naruto walked into the academy. Everything was almost exactly the same, almost. Since Oren becoming Naruto's guardian, he would, day after day, accompany Naruto into his class to make sure nobody, Girl Scout, would try anything sneaky. When Soup got back from the hospital after his summer-long stay there, he decided to get Naruto back. That was until he saw Oren, like his fangirl Sasuke, backed off. Naruto during his second year in the academy made a few more friends. They were Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akamichi, and a slight one with Shino Aburame. He was on neutral terms with Kiba Inuzuka. Him having his dog Akamaru attack Naruto didn't help too much. But one person he couldn't place was Hinata Hyuga. She was an extremely shy person who treated Naruto very nicely, but she would blush, fiddle with her fingers, and not look him in the eye whenever he was close to her. But despite that, he did sorta consider her a good friend. I wonder why she constantly blushes around me. She has a problem with stuttering as well, oh well. Shikamaru Nara was a very lazy kid. Whenever Naruto hangs out with him, they either go cloud watching, remember the good old beating Sasuke got last year, and played shogi, though Naruto lost every time he liked playing against Shikamaru. He was a good guy to unwind around. He also saw that Shikamaru was indeed a genius. He's good, if only he wasn't so lazy. Choji Akamichi was always following Shikamaru. Naruto figured out that they became very good friends pretty early in their lives. Naruto's time spent with Choji usually included eating contests at Ichiraku's ramen, hanging with Shikamaru, and well, eating. He has a big heart. Too bad his stomach is bigger. Shino Aburame was a pretty solitary person. Naruto figured out the reason for this was because that people would always be freaked out that he had bugs inside of him. Naruto found this gift to be, as he would say, unbelievable, and became a friend to Shino. One reason Naruto licked Shino was that he reminded him of Oren a bit. Except that Oren talked just a little more than he did. Why won't he teach me how to do that? After Naruto was done thinking, Iruka started calling people in for the exam. They were to perform the clone jutsu. Naruto could see his friends look at him with a bit of worry in their eyes. During his time in the academy, he made it look like the clone jutsu was his worst one, in order to keep attention off of him. He was then called into the examination room where he tried to make a few clones. He ended up making only one, and it was close to dead. You fail, Iruka shouted at Naruto before returning to his seat with a look of depression on his face. He wanted Naruto to pass. Iruka, maybe we could let him pass. After all, he did pull through and made a clone. He also seems capable at doing taijutsus and simple genjutsus. Mizuki said. Naruto was a bit surprised that his target would do this. Mizuki, all the other children were able to create 3 or more effective clones, while Naruto could only create 1, and look at it. It's pathetic. Iruka finished bluntly. Naruto wasn't upset. He knew that if indeed Mizuki didn't have any mischief in the making, that Jiraiya would take the bullet for Naruto and explain everything. He was now outside the academy on the swing watching as the other kids were being congratulated by their parents. He heard a few of them talk about how it was OD that he didn't graduate and were thinking of the consequences if he were to. He was just about to call it a day and give up on this Mizuki is evil theory, when all of a sudden Mizuki appeared next to him smiling. Naruto followed Mizuki to the rooftops. Sarutobi and Iruka watched as the scene unfold before them. Iruka, we need to talk. The middle of Konoha Forest. Naruto sat in the forest right where Mizuki told him to go. The scroll of ceiling about 10 feet from him. He had gotten there just few hours ago and was now waiting for Mizuki to show up, hoping that another ninja would show up just in time. But he would glance at the scroll every now and then. No, Naruto, you shouldn't read it, you already have the shadow clone jutsu from Jiraiya, you don't need any other techniques. Naruto sat there thinking, trying to keep his mind from the scroll, but it always came back to haunt him. Gamakichi didn't say Jiraiya forbid me from reading it, and I could get a good technique from it too. Naruto thought as he slowly scooted his way over to the scroll. No, I shouldn't read it, but I guess poking it isn't out of the question. Naruto thought as he started poking the scroll when all of a sudden the scroll opened up. 5 minutes later Naruto was on that scroll like a fat guy on an all-you-can-eat buffet. But before he could even begin to read it, Iruka appeared right behind him. Hey. Naruto laughed weakly. Hey. Iruka laughed as well, but this was a more annoyed laugh than an amused one. Crap, I gotta think of something. I got it, Naruto said, hoping to pull off his bluff. Boy, Iruka-sensei, you're really quick. I was only able to master one jutsu from the scroll. Naruto said, praying for Iruka to buy into it. He doesn't look like he was practicing. But then again, when I got here it looked like he was digging through the scroll, maybe he finished one already. Iruka said, looking over Naruto. Anyway, Iruka-sensei, now that I've mastered one technique, that means I've graduated, right? Who told you that? Mizuki-sensei. He told me that anyone who learns at least one technique from the scroll gets to graduate from the academy. Mizuki, Iruka thought. But before he could piece the puzzle in his mind together, a throng of kunai flew out of the forest and embedded themselves into Iruka's arms and legs, not allowing him to move. Then, Mizuki appeared on the branch in front of them. Naruto, give me the scroll, said as he glared at the two. No, Naruto, don't give Mizuki the scroll. He only plans to use it to get stronger. Naruto, Iruka is only trying to trick you. In fact, the village has been tricking you for 13 years. No, Mizuki, you know it's forbidden to say that. Say what? Naruto asked with a fake concern in his voice. On the day you were born, Naruto, a rule was made in the village, forcing us not to talk about this secret. The secret is that you had the nine-tailed fox inside you. That's why you are hated, Naruto. You were the nine-tailed fox that killed Iruka's parents. Mizuki said with such force that its echoes could be heard for several seconds. Naruto's mind went blank. He had known that the fox had indeed been sealed inside of him, but he never realized that it had been the reason Iruka had been forced into a life without parents. What if Mizuki is right? What if Iruka does hate me? No, Iruka couldn't. All those times at the academy, those memories, they couldn't have been fake, could they? No. No. Naruto began shouting out into the air as chakra began pouring out of him. It was then Mizuki began twirling one of his giant shuriken in the air, and threw it towards Naruto. Naruto, in his state of confusion, could only sit there and close his eyes as he waited for the pain. But when it never came, he saw Iruka standing above him with the shuriken in his back, and tears in his eyes. Naruto, I'm sorry. When my parents had died, it felt like a part of me had died along with them. People began to overlook me, not paying any attention to me. I did things, Naruto, that I regret today. Things I did out of desperation to have people see me. I know the pain you felt for most of your life, Naruto. And I'm sorry that I didn't help you many of the times when I had the chance. Iruka doesn't know that during Naruto's absence from when he was 6 to 10 that he was with Jiraiya and thought he was alone. Closing parenthesis. Naruto was far beyond confused. In a moment of panic he ran into the woods, only to stumble upon Iruka and Mizuki talking about him. With Iruka sitting against the base of a tree, still bleeding from his wounds. Iruka, don't you see, Naruto is just like me. Mizuki said, about 10 feet from Iruka. How's that, Mizuki? You see, Naruto is going to use that scroll to destroy the village. That is how beasts are. You're right, Iruka said simply. Naruto just stood there. I can't believe it, Iruka just thinks I'm a freak, a beast. Naruto thought as he sat there on the ground. But Iruka's next statement would leave an impression on Naruto that would last a lifetime. That is how beasts are, but Naruto isn't like that. He is a kind person who works hard to accomplish his goals no matter what. He is Naruto Uzumaki, a ninja of Konoha. Iruka stated with a firm tone in his voice. Naruto began crying, not tears of anguish anymore, but tears of joy that Iruka did care for him. When you're Naruto, every time a person says they think of you like that is a reason to cry for joy. He then heard Mizuki move in to kill Iruka. Naruto ran to prot. Iruka by sending a knee into Mizuki's jaw, sending him back several feet. If you ever touch my sensei again, I'll kill you, Naruto said with anger in every word. Hey, not like you can do anything about it, Mizuki said as he clumsily got up. Take your best shot, fool, I'll send it right back 100-fold. Naruto said while forming the cross-shape hand sign. Show me what you got, nine-tailed fox. Mizuki shouted as he began to charge Naruto. Mass Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto shouted as hundreds of shadow clones appeared in the clearing. Mizuki began to panic at the size of the numbers. While Iruka was impressed that Naruto had mastered a jutsu that he couldn't even use yet. If you're not calm NG, then I'm coming for you, Naruto exclaimed as he and his clones proceeded to kick Mizuki's ass. A few minutes later Naruto stood over a now beaten Mizuki. He. Sorry about that, Iruka-sensei, I guess I overdid it, Naruto said sheepishly while rubbing the back of his head. It's alright Naruto, and get over here. I have a gift for you, Iruka said, signaling the boy over as best he could. A few minutes later Naruto could feel a soft, yet heavy clothes be tied onto his forehead. Okay, open your eyes. Naruto did as Iruka had told him. He say the same thing he did when he closed his eyes, except Iruka was missing his headband. Congratulations, you graduate. As Iruka said this, even though he knew for better or worse he was overwhelmed. And tonight we're going to celebrate with ramen at Ichiraku's. That was all Naruto could take. He jumped on Iruka and began bear hugging him. As they wrestled there on the ground, Naruto was as happy as he could be. But he felt like there was something missing, something important. In Konoha, get back here you damn cat. I'm going to get you for clawing my face, a very drunk Oren said as he chased a helpless cat down the street. New teammates, new sensei, same Naruto. Beep, beep, beep. The alarm rang on the Genin team placement days. Naruto and Oren once again got up sluggishly out of their beds. After breakfast they were once again about to walk out the door, till Oren pointed out to Naruto that he had forgotten to put his headband on. Hey. Sorry Oren, it's just I've gotten used to not putting anything on every morning except for the usual, Naruto said as he picked up his headband. Naruto thought for a second, then decided a good spot for it. He quickly tied the headband onto his left shoulder on top of the jacket. Oren smirked as now the headband's metal part made it look like Oren's own metal plate. Alright, mini-me, Oren said chuckling while Naruto settled for a grin, let's go. With that they left the house to head towards the academy. Oren was holding onto his head while walking. I warned you not to get that drunk, Naruto said in as a matter of fact, tone. Hey, it's not my fault. When you've been through what I have over the years, you need a good drink of sake every now and then, Oren said looking down at Naruto. Yeah, Naruto said while looking down the road, when he noticed a illusion cloth of a fence hanging sideways. Konohamaru is at it again Naruto said recalling the events of 2 days ago. Flashback. At the Hokage monument Naruto was taking his ninja photo with Oren. Kid, ya sure you want him in the picture too? The cameraman asked, not ever having come across a two-man picture for a ninja profile. We already said yes, didn't we? Oren said as more of a statement than a question. Yeah, so just take the picture, Naruto said in a commanding tone. Fine, the cameraman said in a more or less defeated tone as he took the picture of Oren and Naruto standing back to back with cherry blossom leaves somehow flying in the background for a more dramatic effect. At the Hokage Tower, Sarutobi was looking Saint Naruto's ninja profile picture. At first he was in awe, he had never seen such an amazing picture, especially for a genin. The cherry blossom leaves were perfect in the picture, and Naruto's and Oren's stance and expressions only added to it perfection. But then he saw something wrong with the picture, so he called Naruto and Oren to his office. As the two arrived, they sat in the chairs a few feet away from the desk the Hokage was at. "Now then, the reason I called you two here was for your picture," Sarutobi said while putting the picture down. "Pretty sweet, huh? At first we were just going to stand back to back, but then Oren was the one to suggest that we have someone blow some cherry blossom leaves into it," Naruto said, grinning ear to ear, while Oren just had a pride-filled smile as he thought about his brilliant idea. "You have to retake it," Sarutobi said with an immediate reaction from both Oren and Naruto. "Why?" they both said. "Because Naruto, this is supposed to be your ninja information picture. I realize that Oren is your guardian, but that doesn't mean that he will accompany you on your missions," Sarutobi said. "Actually, Lord Hokage, it does," Oren said, drawing Naruto's and Sarutobi's attention to him. "Since I am Naruto's guardian, I will accompany him wherever he goes," Oren said bluntly. "But you're a civilian, you're not allowed to be paid for a ninja mission," Sarutobi said, trying to keep tradition in place. "I didn't say I would need to be paid," Oren finished, while his eyesight locked with Sarutobi's in a glaring contest. "Sigh, Oren, cover your eyes." Oren did so. "Transform," Naruto said, transforming into his sexy jutsu form. "Please, Lord Hokage," Naruto said in a seductive tone, while Sarutobi just passed out for a few seconds from lack of blood to his head due to major nosebleed, while Naruto dispelled the jutsu. "So that's the sexy jutsu Jiraiya told me about. Sigh, very tricky." "Too tricky, don't do it again," Sarutobi finished as Konohamaru came in with a shuriken in his hand, charging at Sarutobi and then tripping on his scarf. "OWWWW," he said face down on the floor. "Honorable grandson, are you all right?" a Junin named Ebisu said, walking into the room. When he saw Naruto, he gave him a look that both Naruto and Oren were both familiar with, though Naruto didn't notice it as he was preoccupied with Konohamaru. But Oren did, and he immediately sent waves of killer intent towards Ebisu. "Hey, you tripped me, didn't you?" Konohamaru said, pointing at Naruto. "Why, you little," Naruto said, picking up Konohamaru by the collar. "Put him down right now, that is the honorable grandson of the third Hokage." Ebisu screamed as he watched in shock. "What's the matter? Not going to hit me because the Hokage is my grandfather?" Konohamaru said in a smug tone. "I don't care if he's your grandmother," said while hitting Konohamaru over the head and blacking out of the room with Oren. And basically everything else is the same, I just don't really feel like writing it all out." Flashback over. "I gotta tell the old man thanks for letting the picture stay the same. And for even assing Oren's profile to it," Naruto thought in his head while they were approaching the cloth. Then Konohamaru busted out of the cloth, running towards Naruto, and once again tripping over his scarf. "Ah, that's why I respect you as my rival. But I didn't even do anything," Naruto said while Oren just shook his head in a, "why do we get stuck with these kind of people" fashion. After talking to Konohamaru for a few minutes, Oren and Naruto left him and started heading back to the academy. When they arrived, only a few more seats were open for them to sit in. Where do I feel like sitting? I could sit next to Sasuke, but ever since that prank he seems to want to kill me. There are some seats behind him, but that would bring me into the line of fire of his fangirls. Oh come on, isn't there a seat that won't get me killed? Oh hey, there is one beside Hinata, I could use some sane company," Naruto thought as he looked around the room. He sat in the seat next to Hinata. At first she didn't notice, but she did when his voice penetrated her train of thought. "Hey Hinata." She was a bit shocked for a second before she could register who sat beside her. Nah Naruto," she said while she was blushing. "Geez, why does she always blush while she is around me?" Naruto thought, but not showing it on his face. "Naruto is sitting right beside me. That means he passed. Oh, I knew he could do it, maybe we'll be on the same team." "Oh, what to do?" she thought as she blushed shades of red that could only be surpassed by a Crayola crayon. Sigh, he still doesn't get it. Maybe I can help him a bit. Oren thought while smirking as he brushed his index finger across his forehead, and on his finger appeared a pyriefly. The said pyriefly flew into Naruto's head. I mean, it's not that it's weird that bugs me, it's just she does it all the time when I'm around. Naruto thought. She looks cute while she does it though, right? Oren's pyriefly transferred between himself and Naruto. Well yeah, but, hey wait, who are you? Naruto thought before blushing a bit. Your inner thoughts. Oren thought, trying his best to make his thoughts sound like Naruto. Oh no, don't tell me I'm going to be a freak like Sakura. Naruto thought while he began to panic. That crazy fangirl. No, I'm a little different than that, basically your subconscious thoughts. Oren thought, hoping Naruto would buy it. Oh okay, so anyway, why would I think that Hinata is cute? Naruto thought with a questioning tone. Hey, you just agreed with me a minute ago. Oren thought with a tone. Naruto started blushing again before he thought, well, you see. Shut up. Oren began making a mental laugh. Naruto always did had when he was flustered. Calm down man, I'm just saying, maybe it's because you do. Naruto's blush died down a bit. But why? Oren had to think about that for a second. Well, shit. Naruto started producing a mental picture of himself with his arms across his chest, tapping his foot on the ground. I'm waiting. Then it hit Oren. I know what. Naruto got an annoyed look in his face. And what is it? Oren immediately started talking, knowing Naruto's patience wouldn't hold up for much longer. Well, she was the only person who would get within 10 feet of you without malicious intent, right? Naruto thought about it for a second. He realized that he was right. Yeah, we even met after that first day in the academy. We talked some in the days that followed, but... Then she started stuttering and blushing when I was near. We still talked, don't get me wrong, but then it really just became me talking and her listening. Well then, how about next time you and her have a chance to talk? You give her an opportunity to talk, so that you can learn more about her. That could probably help. Yeah, Naruto thought as he started relaxing. Oren decided to finish this little mental conversation as it was pretty exhausting to keep up. Well, wouldn't now be a good time to start? Naruto shot up. Oh yeah, well I guess I'll see you later. Yeah, Oren thought before withdrawing his pyriefly. Naruto looked over at Hinata. She was blushing a red that could be described as magenta. He smiled for a second. She is cute, he thought before he mentally beat himself for thinking something so perverted. So Hinata, what have you been up to lately? Naruto asked, trying to do what his inner thoughts told him. Hinata began blushing again before turning towards Naruto. No, nothing, nah Naruto. What about why you? Naruto was about to start going into a giant speech about his past few days, but stopped himself before he could begin. Well, to be honest, nothing too interesting. But if you tell me what has really been up with you, I will tell you about my past few days. Hinata blushed a deep red color. Did he really just say that? He's taking an interest in me. Does he like me? Is he just being friendly? Does it even matter? Hinata thought before she told Naruto about how her days have been going. Naruto did the same, save for the entire Mizuki incident. Oren smiled at his accomplishment. Hey, I wonder what this could turn into. He thought as Sakura and Ino ran through the door. They began arguing about who would sit next to Sasuke, which in 2RN caused all the fangirls to start arguing. Now here is what most of the people heard. I wanna sit next to Sasuke. Here is what Naruto heard. Squawk squawk. Ah, screech. Sound O. F nails being scratched up against a chalkboard. For the love of God. Please shut the hell up. Naruto finally shouted the thoughts of the entire room. At first it was quiet, so Naruto began talking to Hinata again. Then he noticed the look of pure terror on her face. He turned to his right, to see Oren looking perfectly fine, except that his hair was white and standing straight up. He turned completely around, and what he saw made him lose all the color in his face. He saw at least 25 fangirls glaring at him with killer intent glazed over every inch of the glare. They proceeded to beat the shit out of him. After a few minutes, Iruka came into the room to see, to his surprise, all of the fangirls being quiet. Then he saw a badly beaten Naruto, with Hinata and Oren trying to stop the bleeding. A giant anime sweat drop formed on the back of Iruka's head as he began to read off the list for the teams. When he got to Team 7 he got mixed reactions from all 4 members. Oren was too busy making sure Naruto was okay to care. Sakura was jumping for JY to be placed on the same team as Sasuke. Sasuke, being the emo that he was, just sat there. Naruto however had a very different reaction. "Why God, what have I ever done to deserve this?" he said as he cried into his hands. Now there were 3 different reactions from 3 groups in the room. The first felt sore for Naruto and was made up of everyone who wasn't on his team. The second, who were his teammates, were annoyed. The third, Oren, after he realized what group he got into, started joining Naruto. "Anyway, your group's sensei will be showing up shortly, see you all later," Iruka said, saying a prayer for Naruto on his way out. After 3 hours everyone's sensei showed up and picked them up, except for Team 7's. Then all of a sudden a silver-haired Junin we all know walked into the room, looking over his team, and 1+ Guardian. My impression. As he said this everyone seemed to hang on every last word. "I don't like you people." Sasuke started glaring at his new sensei. Sakura sunk her head while inner Sakura on the other hand. "I don't like you all that much either, bastard." While Oren and Naruto just settled for a sigh. "Meet me up on the roof in a few minutes," their new sensei said before disappearing in a cloud of smoke. Kakashi's test. Naruto and his team made it to the roof to see their new sensei sitting there waiting for them. "Yo, it took you long enough to get up here," their sensei said. "Sorry if we didn't learn any teleporting techniques in the academy, sensei," Naruto said, a tad bit annoyed. "Fair enough," their sensei said, pointed towards the stairs, signaling for them to sit there. "Anyway, I want you all to tell me your names, likes, dislikes, hobbies, and dreams for the future. Sensei, why don't you go first, so that we know what to do?" Sakura said while raising her hand. She didn't understand that. Geez, he couldn't have been any more clear. Naruto thought. "Well, okay then. My name is Kakashi Hatake. My likes and dislikes are none of your business. My hobbies, well, you don't need to know those. Dreams for the future, well, I've done my part, now it's your turn, Pinky," Kakashi said, pointing at Sakura while Naruto could only try to hold in a laugh because of Kakashi's nickname for Sakura. Sakura kinda glared at Kakashi for a second before answering. "My name is Sakura Haruno. My likes are," she said, glancing at Sasuke and blushing. "My dislikes are Naruto," she said bluntly. "Whatever, forehead fangirl." "Nah," Ruto said, earning a punch to the head from Sakura. "Anyway, my hobbies are studying, among other things. And my dreams for the future are," she said before glancing at Sasuke and squealing. "Oh great, a fangirl. Why'd I always get stuck with a fangirl in the group?" Kakashi thought. "Oh great, she's not just a fangirl, she's a super fangirl, the worst kind." Oren thought, remembering some of Titus' super fangirls and quivering. "I still have nightmares. Oh great, I got stuck with one of my fangirls." Sasuke thought while sighing. "I wonder what me and Oren are going to have for dinner tonight." Naruto thought, not even paying attention to Sakura's introduction. Sigh. Who are you?" Kakashi said, finally noticing Oren was still with them. "My name is Oren, and my story isn't open for you to know yet," he said bluntly. His story. Sasuke, Sakura and Kakashi thought at the same time, while Naruto just gave Oren a grin. "Okay, you're next, Blondie," Kakashi said, pointing at Naruto. "Okay then. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. My likes are ramen, my friends, and my guardian Oren. My dislikes are fangirls, emos, and people who look down on others before getting to know them better, and damn villagers. My hobbies are training, hanging out with my friends, and, well, not much else. My dream is..." All of a sudden the aura around Naruto seemed to change, to become the greatest Hokage of Konoha. "And protect it from those who would do it, and my precious people within it harm." He finished with, not his usual fox grin, but a more calm and placid grin. "Well, this one was unexpected. On the off chance he passes my test, he might actually become a great ninja," Kakashi said with a sort of smirk on his face. "Okay then, you're up next, Smiles," Kakashi said, pointing to Sasuke. Sasuke grunted for a second before answering Kakashi. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I have no likes, but very many dislikes. I have no hobbies, and I think of it as more of an ambition than a dream. My ambition is to kill a certain someone and restore my clan. Wow, Sasuke is so cool, Sakura thought while blushing. HMPH. This guy makes Seymour look like a ray of sunshine. Oren thought being as serious as a heart attack. Emo. Naruto thought while having a, yeah right, look on his face. One word for ya, predictable. Kakashi thought just looking lazily at Sasuke. Well, now that that's out of the way. Meet me at the training grounds. We will be having a survival exercise there. Kakashi said while looking over his team. But sensei, we already had those at the academy. Sakura said. Those were only to see if you had the potential to become genin. I will be administering the real test. He. Kakashi said when he started chuckling. What's so funny? Naruto asked. Oh, you wouldn't want to know. Kakashi said in a teasing tone. Just tell us. Oren said, he never was one to beat around the bush, and he certainly didn't like it when people did it to him. Alright then, out of all 27 participants taking this test only 9 will become ninja. Add to that there is only a 66.6 chance of you all passing this test. Kakashi said bluntly. Sack. Ura and Sasuke looked shocked at Kakashi, while Naruto and Oren were largely unaffected. Anyway, like I said, meet me at the training grounds 7 a.m. sharp. Oh, and don't eat breakfast, you'll just puke. Kakashi said as he disappeared. All the team members went their own way for the day. Sasuke went to the Uchiha compound to get ready. Sakura followed him to try to get a date out of him. While Naruto and Oren went out into the woods and started training. The sound of wood bashing against wood resonated through the woods. So Naruto, you worried about this test? Oren said while parrying one of Naruto's attacks. Hey, why should I be? With your training, Oren, and Jiraiya's too, I should be able to pass this test if I drop the weights. Naruto said while taking a second to point to his forearms and shins. That second was all Oren needed to knock Naruto flat on his butt. Hey, you distracted me, Naruto said while rubbing his rump. A good ninja and swordsman shouldn't get distracted from the fight. Oren said while extending a hand to Naruto and lifting him up. After another 2 hours of work, Oren rested while Naruto started practicing all of his ninja skills, from taijutsu to genjutsu. From weapons to traps. From chakra control to, you get the idea. At about 9 o'clock they started heading home. They had dinner and they both went to bed, waiting for the test that would decide Naruto's future. They woke up at 5:30 the next morning making sure that Naruto would have everything he needed for the test. Oren told Naruto point blank he wouldn't help him this time. Naruto understood. He knew that he and he alone would have to pass this test. Before they left, Oren stopped Naruto. What? Naruto asked, wondering what the holdup was. We haven't had breakfast yet. Oren said, pointing to the kitchen. But Kakashi-sensei said. Naruto was about to say before being cut short by Oren. A fool goes into battle with a full stomach. But an idiot goes into battle with an empty one. Oren said in a, you're going to eat even if I have to shove it down your throat to make you eat it, tone. Naruto, defeated and hungry, went over for some breakfast. They decided to had 1 cup of beef ramen apiece, and washed it down with some sweet red bean soup. After that they ran off towards the training ground Kakashi had mentioned earlier. This one had 3 stumps and the memorial stone. Naruto and Oren were the first 2 there, so after the 2 paid their respects to the people on the stone, Oren decided to stand against a tree, and amazingly fell asleep on it without falling over. And I wish I could do that. Naruto decided to use his time wisely. He started reading Makeout Paradise. Oren really didn't like Makeout Paradise for 2 reasons. One was that it was porn. 2 was because even when you removed the porn, what was left over was just a story he didn't like. Flashback. Sorry Naruto, it's just I'm not a fan of romantic soap opera stories. Oren said, handing the genjutsu affected book to Naruto. It's not a romantic soap opera. It's. Naruto said, trying to think of what the book was. A romantic soap opera, Oren said for him. And at that point Oren learned that if you're going to make fun of Naruto's book, then you're going to get a beating. Flashback over. When Sakura and Sasuke arrived, with so much crap in their eyes they could easily fill the Sahara Desert, Naruto put his little book back into the pouch he kept it in. They waited for 2 hours for their sensei. When he showed up, Sakura was the one to react. "You're late, sensei," she shouted in a harpy tone. "And people thought I was loud in the academy." Naruto thought to himself. "And people thought Naruto was loud in the academy." Sasuke thought to himself. "And people ask me why I hide my good looks behind this mask." Kakashi thought to himself, quivering at the thought of having fangirls all over him. Snore, snore, kill all fangirls. Oren thought, dreaming of killing every fangirl in Konoha, especially a certain pink one. "Sorry I'm late, a black cat crossed my path so I had to take the long way," Kakashi said while pointing back to the way he came. "Now to the test," Kakashi said while pulling out 2 bells and putting an alarm clock on the middle log, as well as 3 lunches in front of those logs. "You have 3 hours to get a bell. If you don't get a bell then you don't get to eat the lunches, and the ones that pass will eat right in front of you." Kakashi finished with Sakura's and Sasuke's stomach growling, while Naruto was using a toothpick to pick beef pieces out of his mouth. "So that's why he didn't have us eat," Sakura and Sasuke thought at the same time. "Glad Oren convinced me to eat," Naruto thought, throwing the toothpick away before anyone noticed. "Start," Kakashi said as the 3 disappeared into the woods, and Oren woke up to watch. The 3 stayed in the woods for a good 15 minutes before Naruto came out. "You and me, right now, one-on-one," Naruto shouted. "You know, compared to the others you're a bit of an idiot," Kakashi said point blank. "Oh, this fool doesn't know what he is up against," Oren thought while keeping his eyes hidden behind his glasses. Naruto got into a battle stance as Kakashi pulled out his copy of Makeout Paradise. "Why are you reading that?" Naruto asked, confused. "To see what happens next in the story, of course. Besides, in your class you're at the bottom, not much of a threat to me," Kakashi said, hoping this would get Naruto angry. Naruto was about to go in there swinging, but decided to think of a plan instead. "The book is the key to my victory," he thought with an evil grin on his face. As Naruto dashed at Kakashi, he threw a few shuriken towards him. Kakashi just stepped out of the way as Naruto tried to sweep Kakashi's legs. Kakashi just jumped to avoid it. Then Naruto forced his leg into the air, and using the left over force from the sweep he tried to roundhouse kick Kakashi's head. Kakashi just did a backflip in midair to avoid it, and landed right behind Naruto. "You know you shouldn't let your foes get behind you," he said, putting his fingers together in what seemed to be the sign of the tiger. "Konoha secret taijutsu, 1000 years of pain," Kakashi said, trying to jam his fingers up Naruto's anus. Oot! Before it could connect, Naruto sprung off the ground, landing behind Kakashi. "Sorry, but another sensei of mine has already done that to me, and I've come up with a counter," Naruto said, this time pulling out a blunt kunai. "Konoha forbidden secret taijutsu, 10,000 years of pain," Naruto said, forcing the blunt kunai up Kakashi's ass and forcing to fly 13 feet away. "The hell? You shoved a kunai up my ass," Kakashi said, pissed as hell. "Hey, just be glad it was blunt. The first person I used it on, I used a sharp one. He was bleeding out of his ass for days," Naruto said while laughing like a madman. "This kid is crazy." Sasuke, Sakura, and Kakashi thought at the same time. "Go Naruto," Oren thought, trying to hold back fits of laughter. "Anyway, back to the match," Naruto said as he created the cross-hand sign. "Shadow clone jutsu." And just like that, 10 Narutos in front of Kakashi. "So you can create solid clones. But that doesn't matter," Kakashi said as 5 of the Naruto started charging him. "You can't beat me with this jutsu. Then I'll beat you with this one," he said as all 5 of the Narutos that stayed behind started flashing through hand signs. "Wind release, Great Storm Winds Jutsu," they shouted as the 5 Narutos they were charging Kakashi were now flying towards him, being propelled by the great winds the other 5 Naruto clones created. All the clones grabbed onto Kakashi, 2 had his arms, 2 his legs, and 1 put him into a full headlock. Then one of the Naruto clones that were creating the wind stopped and then flung hymns. Elf towards Kakashi using the winds in order to make him go faster. When he reached Kakashi, he punched him hard in the stomach, knocking the wind out of Kakashi. Naruto grabbed for something before pulling away from him. Kakashi was hit so hard he was flung into a tree, along with the 5 clones on him, forcing them to be dispelled. Naruto dispelled the other clones with their part of the job done. When Kakashi got up, he checked the bells, and found both there. Well, I have to admit that was a well-organized attack, but unfortunately you didn't get the bells. Kakashi said, grinning as he CKED up his hand to his face to find nothing in it. What? But, where is Makeout Paradise? He said as he began searching himself for the book. Oh, you mean this Makeout Paradise? Naruto said as he showed Kakashi the book. Give me my book, Kakashi said as he began turning red. Naruto just sticked his tongue out and said, no. Then he ducked, and right where his neck was a katana sliced through. Naruto began backing up and created 10 shadow clones of him and the book, and they scattered around. Kakashi was mad as hell as he began charging through the woods, killing anything that looked like Naruto. Eventually he killed 9 of the 10 Narutos as he went back to the clearing. There he noticed his book in front of a tree. Oh, Makeout Paradise, I finally found you, he said as he ran towards his book, only to be stopped at the last minutes by a rope trap that picked him up into the air. Geez, and you're supposed to be a Junin, how pathetic, Naruto said as he approached Kakashi. You evil little boy, how could you separate a man from his porn? Kakashi said with tears in his visible eye. I swear, what the hell is wrong with my life? First I'm almost killed by some lunatic with a fan on his back. Then I'm nearly killed by a super pervert who trained me, then I get a guardian with a drinking problem, next I end up on a team with a crazy fangirl, an emo. And another pervert who would kill you if you took his porn away. It's like I'm in some kind of badly written story or something. Naruto ranted as Kakashi put his finger to his mouth in a shut the hell up fashion. Naruto blinked twice, then turned to the screen, grinning sheepishly and scratching the back of his head. Of course that is just what I think. I mean, I'm sure there are several PLE who would love to read this wonderfully crafted piece of literature. Turning his attention back to Kakashi. Anyway, sensei, Naruto said while flashing through more hand signs. Wind realies, wind sickle jutsu, he said as wind began twisting and turning in his hand. A very sharp, curved blade of chakra, imagine a sickle blade without the hilt, formed as he cut one of the bells from Kakashi's belt. I passed, he said with a wide grin on his face. Yes you did, good job. You may proceed to eat your lunch. Oh, and go ahead and let your guardian eat with you. I have a feeling none of the others will be getting a bell, Kakashi said as he got himself down from the rope and started walking towards the center of the clearing again. Naruto turned around and walked over to Orin. He shook him and Orin got up. Yon, what happened? He said, trying to make it look like he was asleep. Naruto just grinned and showed him the bell. I passed, Orin. I knew you would. So we going to have lunch or what? Orin said, feeling hungry again. Yeah, let's go, Naruto said as they walked over to where the lunches were placed. As they were eating, Naruto looked at the clock. They only have about another hour left. They better get their butts in gear if they want to pass, he thought as he ate some of the sushi that was in the lunch. The hour came and went, girly screams were heard, and the smoke appeared in the forest. After the hour was up, Kakashi appeared with a passed-out Sakura, and Sasuke with most of his clothes covered in dirt. He tied them to the logs and waited for Naruto and Orin to finish eating. Anyway, I would like to congratulate Naruto on a job well done for passing, Kakashi said with a smile. What, the idiot passed? Sasuke said in complete shock. Yes, well, he isn't much of an idiot if he passed my test now, is he? Kakashi said while Sasuke only growled at him. Anyway, it's true he did pass, but so do you too, Kakashi said while Naruto began choking. But why? They didn't get a bell, Naruto said in outrage. Well, you see, Naruto, I wasn't depending on anyone being able to get a bell on their own. I was hoping that you all would work as a team and try to work together to get a bell, Kakashi said with a serious look in his eye. But sensei, there were only 2 bells, that would have caused conflict in the team, Sakura said, pointing out the obvious. Exactly, I was hoping that you all would get over your wants and put the team first. But that didn't happen. Sakura, you were so obsessed with finding Sasuke who wasn't around, when Naruto was right in front of you. And you could have helped a little. Sasuke, you thought you were so damn superior to everyone, and that kept you from helping them, or getting help from them. Naruto, yo, you felt like you had to do this on your own. But then again perhaps you did. He said looking at Naruto then grinning a bit. He was able to get a bell from me with his own skill and ability. When he got it from me fair and square, I couldn't fail him just because he didn't get one with you all with him. That would be unfair to him, and an insult to his skills. Konoha needs skilled ninjas, so I couldn't fail him basically. But to not fail him I would have to pass all of you, because there cannot be a one-genin squad. So be glad Naruto was able to get a bell. You passed because he passed. He finished with a look of disappointment and joy in his eye. Team 7 will be getting their first mission tomorrow. Meet at the meeting point at 7 a.m. He said while untying Sasuke and Sakura and disappearing. Before Sasuke and Sakura could ask Naruto how he beat Kakashi, he and Orin had disappeared as well. At Ichiraku Ramen, Orin and Naruto were celebrating Naruto's passing of his test. To me, Naruto Uzumaki. The next Hokage, Naruto said with his chopsticks in the air. Orin grinned before raising his into the air before they started eating. After about 3 bowls Hinata's team came into the bar. Is Ichiraku's more of a bar or a restaurant? She blushed when she saw Naruto in there. Naruto noticed her group come in and signaled for them to come sit with him. Hey guys, what's up? Naruto asked with a mouth full of ramen. No, nothing Naruto, just coming back from our test. She said as she sat right beside Naruto. Oh really, so did I. Orin and I are just celebrating me passing. Naruto said triumphantly. What do you mean, pass, you idiot? Kiba said from beside Shino, who raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? What do I mean? Didn't you guys get some kind of saying to make sure you were qualified to become ninja from your sensei? Naruto asked pointing towards Kurenai. No Naruto, Kurenai-sensei you just measured our abilities. Hinata said still a bit nervous from sitting next to Naruto. Damn, that means Kakashi tricked us. Naruto said starting to fume. Oh, you got Kakashi So how did you all pass? Kurenai asked knowing that Kakashi normally didn't pass anyone. Well, you see, we started the test by hiding in the woods. After a while I approached Kakashi to fight him one-on-one. He tried to use a weird taijutsu move on me which I countered with my own version. Naruto said as the others were listening very closely. And well, after that is kind of hard to explain. Basically I stole his book. When Naruto said this, Kurenai went wide-eyed. He must be the first person Kakashi didn't kill when he took his book. She thought as she listened very closely. Then I created some clones and we scattered through the woods. After he dester. Oyed 9 of them I went back to where we began and put the book into a trap. When he got there he fell into my trap. He was hanging by his leg by the tree where I set the book. I took one of his bells and ate lunch with Orin. Naruto finished with a grin as he took another bite of ramen. Then he brought the other 2 back to where we were and tied them to a log. Then he began lecturing us on teamwork. Well, he lectured them more than me, and he said that the only reason they passed was because I passed. He finished slurping some more ramen. That's amazing. Naruto passed. Hinata said blushing thinking how great it was that Naruto passed. Yes, good job. Shino said giving one of his rare grins. Wow, how did a dead last like you pass? Kiba said grinning while Naruto glared daggers at him. Naruto, do you realize what you did? Kurenai asked Naruto, who shook his head no. You did what several genin squads tried to do before you, the only difference is you passed where each and every one of them failed. Kurenai said. Naruto was speechless. His team did what so many others couldn't. He then started shouting and jumping around. That must mean I'm 10 times better than all of them, he said while laughing. Hinata and Orin just smiled at Naruto. Kurenai and Kiba were still in shock that they were able to accomplish such a thing. Shino didn't so a thing. Come on, yo, you guys gotta let me buy you all some ramen, Naruto said, while everyone but Hinata accepted. Nah Naruto, I couldn't. I mean you just couldn't take a gift from YU for your success. Hinata said blushing. Naruto put his hand on Hinata's shoulder and gave her one of his genuine smile. Oh, don't worry about it, Hinata, this isn't just to celebrate my success, but all of ours, so come on, you gotta let me buy you some ramen, okay? Hinata began to blush a deeper red than even Kurenai's eyes from the contact with Naruto, as all she could do was nod her head. Geez, hasn't that idiot guessed that Hinata likes him? Kiba thought while looking at the incredible shade of red. Shino thought while raising an eyebrow. So Hinata likes him. Maybe I talked the Hokage into letting our teams go on some missions together. Kurenai thought, looking at the possible new couple. Go Naruto. Orin thought. Wow, Hinata sure is red, the red really brings out her eyes, what? Naruto thought as he turned back to Ichiraku. Hey old man, out all of them on my bill. Naruto said. Sure Naruto, no problem. Ichiraku said. After they all ate, they separated for the day. On his way to his house, Naruto and Orin talked. So, why did you insist on paying for your girlfriend's ramen? Orin said jokingly. She's not my girlfriend. Naruto said while blushing a light pink color. Then how come you're blushing? Orin said with a grin. Well, you see, shut up. Naruto said very flustered. Whatever. Orin said while turning his own way. Naruto was still a bit flustered with Orin, but then he got to thinking. Maybe I do like her. A little, maybe. Naruto thought, still confused about the entire thing. To be continued, and thank you for watching.